Chapter 1268. A while later, the wild bull came over. Rick stood on the deck and looked at the people across from him. When the wild bull was less than a meter away, it finally dropped its anchor and stopped. Rick jumped onto the boat with a few people. "Sir, hello. How should I address you?" "My surname is Chen." "Mr. Chen." Rick's smile was fake. He looked at Peter and Prague. "I want to know why they're on your boat." Peter hid behind Chen Zhao subconsciously. Chen Zhao looked at Rick calmly. "It's none of your business. Take Pammy and leave my boat. Other than Pammy, I want the two of them to leave with me too." "What if I refuse?" Chen Zhao asked. Rick sneered. "Do you think you have the right to refuse?" Rick's men raised their guns and pointed at Chen Zhao. Suddenly, a huge wave crashed toward them. The boat heaved up and down, but Chen Zhao stood firmly on the spot. But Rick and his men couldn't stand still anymore. Chen Zhao suddenly moved. His fingers pierced through Rick's men's chests and pulled them to the sides. Blood splattered all over the deck. Another man tried to resist, but Chen Zhao punched him. The man's head exploded like a watermelon. "Fire! Fire!" Chen Zhao attacked again. He raised his leg and kicked the man who couldn't stand still in the first place in the stomach. His body fell into the sea like a piece of rag. Chen Zhao grabbed the fourth man's shoulder and his neck with his other hand. He pulled hard and the fourth man's body was torn from the shoulder to the neck. He didn't die immediately and was still wailing. When the ship stabilized again, Rick was the only one left. The four subordinates he had brought had all died tragically in Chen Zhao's hands. Pammy and Peter stared at Chen Zhao, dumbfounded. They'd never seen such a bloody way of killing before. "Mr. Chen. I think there's some misunderstanding." "No, there's no misunderstanding." Chen Zhao looked at the people on the wild bull. The people on the other side also saw Chen Zhao's killing. Chen Zhao suddenly jumped onto the wild bull. The people on the deck of the bison immediately attacked Chen Zhao. An arrow shot toward Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao caught it and tossed it back. A person died a horrible death. Then, he grabbed the face of the person closest to him and pressed it against the ground. Blood splattered everywhere. In a few moments, the four people on the deck were all dead. Chen Zhao charged into the cabin. Screams rose and fell in the cabin. Occasionally, one or two severed limbs would be thrown out. Only a few minutes had passed from beginning to end. When Chen Zhao walked out of the cabin, he was covered in blood. Chen Zhao returned to his boat and looked at Rick with a smile. Rick had never thought that one day, he would actually provoke such a malefic star. That blood-stained face was filled with ghastly horror. "Do I have the right to refuse now?" Rick paled in fear. He stared at Chen Zhao in horror. Just because of a disagreement, he killed more than 20 people on his ship. Had already foreseen this. She knew better than anyone else how terrifying and powerful Chen Zhao was. In this battle, Chen Zhao didn't even use 1/10 of his strength. But Pete and Pammy were different. To them, this level was enough to scare them to death. Rick's face paled even more. "Mr. Chen. I actually didn't plan to what? Didn't plan to have a conflict with me? Do you think there's any point in saying this now?" Clean my boat," Chen Zhao said. "You dirted my boat." Everyone was speechless. "You made the deck so bloody. You must have done it yourself, right?" But Chen Zhao didn't realize it at all. He felt that it was Rick and his men who did it. "Mr. Chen, I'll watch him for you. If there's any residue left on the deck, I'll find it for you." Pete had been pissed off by Rick before. Now that he finally had a chance to take revenge, he was very enthusiastic and proactive. Pammy's face was also pale. "Mr. Chen. You're not welcome here." Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. Pammy didn't have good intentions. Before the boarding, he'd already expected a conflict. Actually, the conflict could have been avoided. But he didn't even warn Chen Zhao. Even if Chen Zhao didn't care, it didn't mean that he could tolerate a passenger with bad intentions. Chen Zhao could even tolerate a hot-tempered young master like Pete because he'd already paid the fees. But Chen Zhao didn't have the obligation to tolerate Pammy. After cleaning up the deck, Rick looked at Chen Zhao with trepidation. Chen Zhao glanced at Rick. He'd attacked again. After a painful scream, Rick's arms were torn off by Chen Zhao. "Okay, you can get off my boat now. You can't do this. You killed all the people on the Bison. We can't even start the Bison." "Ha. What does that have to do with me?" Chen Zhao chuckled. An ocean-going boat was different from a yacht. A yacht was about simple operation. In other words, it was a system that only idiots could operate. Even people without any sailing experience would be able to operate it. However, an ocean-going boat was different. There were all kinds of equipment and at least 20 people. Just the cockpit needed 3 people. There were also the engine room and the pressure room that needed a few people to watch. If one person was alone, he'd probably die of exhaustion. As for Rick, he was already useless now. "Okay, you can go, or I'll throw you off the boat." Chen Zhao ordered them to leave again. "Pete, take care of those arms." Pammy stared at Chen Zhao with hatred. "That look of yours can easily get you killed," Chen Zhao said with a smile. Shocked, Pammy lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Chen Zhao anymore. He was afraid that he'd reveal more hatred. Pammy jumped onto the Bison. Pete also threw Rick onto the boat. "Rick, if there's a chance next time, come to Los Angeles. I'll treat you to a drink," Pete said proudly. Pammy started the Bison. It was hard for him to do it alone, but it wasn't completely unusable. After starting the Bison, Pammy started cleaning up the bodies on the boat. He threw them into the sea one by one, including Rick, who hadn't died yet. "With my flesh and blood, I offer your chaos. With the silence of the 4 seas, I exchange your darkness. Respond to my horn, woo, woo, woo." A loud horn sounded from the Bison. The yacht was already a nautical mile away, but it could still hear the horn. "Mr. Chen, Pammy probably won't let this go. After all, he's a spiritualist too." Chapter 1269. What's in the sea? Peter realized that something seemed to be moving in the raging waves. Chen Zhao had noticed it long ago. Amon had warned him. A large number of sharks were approaching. Without a doubt, Pammy had summoned them. But what could they do? No matter how many there were, could they jump onto the yacht? Or sink the yacht? Stop joking. This was reality, not a movie or a novel. The bottom and body of Chen Zhao's yacht were made of carbon alloy that was 25 centimeters thick. Carbon alloy was very light, but it was many times stronger than regular steel. Of course, it was also many times more expensive. Unless the sharks were as big as Amon, they could leave a dent in the yacht. But sharks couldn't do any damage to the yacht. It was the same for 1 shark, 10, 100, or 1,000 sharks. The saying, "ants can bite an elephant to death," didn't happen in reality. Even if the sharks used suicide attacks, it was just suicide, not an attack. It was like a normal person hitting an iron plate with their head. Apart from suicide, there was no other use. The iron plate was still iron, but the head would become a watermelon. The sharks hit the yacht, making thumping sounds. It sounded terrifying, but it was actually the sound of the carbon alloy spreading the impact. If the sharks couldn't attack 100 times faster, their numbers wouldn't matter. Peter and Bragg were terrified. After all, the sound was terrifying. They were worried that the yacht would be smashed. If they fell into the water, Chen Zhao might not be afraid, but they would definitely die. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao didn't plan on letting the sharks attack. Suddenly, Peter and Bragg realized that the water turned red. Then a shark surfaced. At first, they thought that the shark had been killed by a collision, but upon closer inspection, they realized that it wasn't the case. The shark seemed to have been bitten by something. Half of its body was gone. It was also more than 6 meters long. At least half of its body was 3 meters long. It had to be a huge beast to be able to bite it in half. Just then, another half of the shark surfaced, and then another. To regular people, these sharks might be ferocious beasts in the sea. But compared to Amon, they were clearly not enough. Even the largest great white shark in the sea would not exceed 8 meters in length. An ordinary adult great white shark would basically maintain a length of about 6 meters. It weighed about 3 tons, while an adult killer whale could reach a length of 10 meters and weigh more than 10 tons. Amon's body length reached 75 meters and his weight was 800 tons. Every time Amon grew up, he would gain a lot of weight. After all, normal creatures wouldn't just grow in length. If it only had length, then it would be a snake. For the giant beasts in the ocean, the bigger they grew, the bigger their bodies became. Not only did Amon's body grow in length and weight, but he was also gradually revealing his demonic form. Chen Zhao didn't even dare to let Amon appear before ordinary people. Amon was fighting with a school of sharks in the sea. Amon's lethality towards them was fatal. Basically, a single bite, a sweep of his tail, or a collision with his body would be fatal. But the shark couldn't even break Amon's skin. Now, Amon's skin was as hard as diamond. Even a large caliber gun might not be able to penetrate his skin. There was more than one halberd growing out of his back. There were also many bone spurs growing out of his back, as if they were inlaid with pieces of blades. Within a 1-kilometer radius, there were hundreds of shark corpses floating. The entire sea had turned red. Shock was written all over Bragg and Peter's faces. The pirates on Guret's ship were also shocked. "Boss. What? What's going on?" Guret pointed at the yacht in the distance. "The owner of that yacht did it." "Him? How did he do it?" "His pet is in the water," Guret said. "This is why I'm working with him. Don't get into conflict with him, especially at sea, because you won't even have a place to run." To be honest, even Chen Zhao was surprised by Pami's magic. Actually, Pami's magic was already very good. It even exceeded Chen Zhao's expectations. If the target was someone else, perhaps Pami's magic could create a massacre. "Master, we've killed all the sharks. Catch up with that ship and kill that man." In the past, Amon couldn't do anything to those large ocean-going ships either. Ocean-going ships were all made of 80-centimeter stainless steel. In the past, Amon would be in the same situation as the sharks against Chen Zhao's yacht. But it was different now. Amon was a huge piece of iron now. An 800-ton iron block could smash anything into pieces. Perhaps an aircraft carrier couldn't be destroyed, but a medium-sized ocean-going ship could be smashed by Amon with just one hit. Pami sensed that the sharks he'd summoned were disappearing one by one. This took him by surprise. He guessed that it was probably Chen Zhao's doing. Chen Zhao was also a spiritualist. Although he said that he was a strengthening magician, he also said that he knew many types of magic. Coupled with the fact that the summoned sharks had mysteriously disappeared when he had shown him the magic earlier, Linley had no idea what was going on. Pami's feeling grew stronger. It was definitely Chen Zhao's doing. Pami somewhat regretted his recklessness. Suddenly, Pami saw a black shadow coming from the sea. That black shadow was very big, and it was very fast. But because it was more than 10 meters underwater, Pami couldn't see clearly. The bad feeling grew stronger. Boom! The huge impact threw Pami 3 meters away. Then the ship started tilting. Pami hurriedly grabbed onto the protrusion. He couldn't stop the ship from tilting at all. There was nothing he could do. Just then, he saw the black shadow again. It wasn't as long as the bison, but it was still shockingly huge. As the shadow approached the sea, Pami finally saw it clearly. What was that? A killer whale? Could a killer whale grow so scary? The thing in the water looked like a combination of certain things. Apart from a huge sword that looked like a blade, there was also a row of blade-like bone spikes. On both sides of the huge mouth, there were two exposed bones that looked like ivory. On its black back, there were faint golden patterns. Pommy had never seen such a creature before. Chapter 1270. Chen, I don't know what's wrong with the sky. It's not bright at all. We can't wait anymore. Let's go to Nanshi Island now. Gurette contacted Chen Zhao and told him the plan. Just then, an aurora appeared in the night sky. The dazzling aurora was intoxicating. Everyone who saw it opened their mouths. Chen Zhao also looked up at the aurora. It was his first time seeing one. He had to admit that the aurora was too beautiful. It was filled with mystery and unknown beauty. But Chen Zhao couldn't help but wonder. Theoretically, this place was still some distance from the Bering Sea. It was a warm and cold sea, so there shouldn't be such an abnormal aurora. The two boats approached Nanshi Island. Nanshi Island wasn't on the common map or navigation. It was an undeveloped and undiscovered island. There were more than 30,000 islands in the Pacific Ocean. The total area of the islands was 4 million square kilometers, which was almost half the size of China. Many newly discovered islands would be added every year. Many islands had magical natural phenomena. Just like Nanshi Island, there were many islands that were submerged in the water for half of the year. The reason why it would sink into the water was because the island was in a very low position. Secondly, the Earth's crust was very active. There were many islands that could dive. There were islands like this off the coast of China. Volcanoes were active at the bottom of the sea and erupted periodically. Every time a volcano erupted, the Earth's crust would move, causing the nearby land plates to shift. After sailing for an hour, Chen Zhao finally saw the outline of Nanshi Island. Just then, Chen Zhao felt something approaching the boat. It wasn't a mon. Then, the boat shook. A huge tentacle reached out from the sea and circled around the deck. The suction cups on the tentacle grabbed the boat tightly. The tentacle was more than 1 meter in diameter and more than 30 meters long. Peter and Prague were both frightened by the tentacle. Peter screamed, "Help! North Sea monster! We've encountered a North Sea monster." Some scholars believed that the North Sea monster in ancient Greek mythology was a deep-sea giant cuttlefish. This was common knowledge. Suddenly, the tentacle's suction cups loosened. Because a mon had already arrived and bit the tentacle's body in half. This monster was not a giant squid, but an octopus. A super large octopus. Chen Zhao sensed that the octopus's body and tentacles were at least 50 meters long. Amon liked the taste very much. At least, Amon didn't eat a single bite of the sharks from before. But this octopus, Amon swallowed half of its body in one gulp. However, this kind of mollusk was not dead. Even though half of its body was bitten off, it was still not completely dead. Several huge tentacles wrapped tightly around Amon. Amon jumped out of the water. At this moment, Prague and Pete finally saw Amon's true body. Both of them opened their mouths wide and looked at Amon in disbelief. The pirates on the ancient ship also had faces full of disbelief. What was that? Gurette, on the other hand, frowned. Compared to the first time he met Amon, Amon's appearance had changed a lot. Back then, Amon was huge, but not to this extent. Furthermore, its appearance was that of a true killer whale. But at this moment, Amon was completely in the form of a monster. Mr. Chen. What is that? Monster. Monster. There's a monster in the water. Let's run, Chen Zhao glanced at Pete disapprovingly. However, before they could get close to Nanshi Island, they saw a warship. More accurately, it was a piece of scrap metal. The warship was upside down and pierced into the water. Gurette had said that not long ago, a naval fleet had been completely annihilated here. This warship should be one of them. Suddenly, the the seawater churned. It was as if thousands of horses were galloping in the sea. Chen Zhao could sense that many smaller creatures were approaching from below the sea. Amon started to clean them up. They were very small, but there were many of them. Amon jumped out of the water again. On Amon's body, many small things stuck to him like parasites. Amon's body shook and the small things were sent flying. Amon didn't just rely on his huge body to dominate the sea. He also had a certain ability to control the water flow. Guret's pirate ship stopped in front. Chen Zhao saw something climb onto the ship. Fish? The image of the little fishmen in the game flashed across Chen Zhao's mind. They were very similar to the little fishmen. They were only 30 to 40 centimeters tall, about the size of an inferior demon. Their skin was smooth and dark blue. They had 4 limbs. They were also very strong at climbing. Chen Zhao saw them climb onto the pirate ship and start attacking the pirates. But they were too weak. Guret and her men started to fight back. Just then, the little fishmen also climbed onto the ship. Peter and Bragg immediately took sticks and began to beat these little fishmen. Basically, with a swing of his stick, he could kill several of them. However, there were too many inferior manfish. More and more of them climbed onto the ship. These little manfish were ferocious and gluttonous. They didn't let their companions' corpses go either. Instead of attacking, they went to eat their companions' corpses. Mr. Chen, hurry up and think of something. Prague finally asked Chen Zhao for help. Chen Zhao stood where he was, rubbing his chin in thought. The little fishmen didn't attack Chen Zhao. Instead, they kept attacking Prague and Pete. They weren't very smart, but they could feel that Chen Zhao wasn't easy to deal with. In fact, the number of little fishmen climbing onto the ship was actually quite small. Amon was in the sea, devouring them like crazy. These inferior manfish were like popcorn to him. They were small, but there were a lot of them. Amon could suck hundreds of them into his mouth when he opened it. Chen Zhao grabbed an inferior manfish and observed it. The aura of this little manfish was very weak, but there was a sense of familiarity. Amon was rarely interested in normal food. The only food he was interested in was either demonic crystals or a god of the mutants. A god of the mutants. Chen Zhao finally remembered. These little fishmen weren't demonized. They'd been corroded by the aura of the god of the mutants. Chen Zhao couldn't tell what they were originally, but they were definitely some kind of fish. Amon was a demon, so he was very interested in god of the mutants and mutated creatures. Chen Zhao was interested. He'd never tried devouring a god of the mutants. Chen Zhao activated the mouth of gluttony and swallowed the little fishman. The mouth of gluttony immediately felt a strong appetite. Chapter 1271. Peter and Prague were already exhausted. They were all complaining inside, wondering why Chen Zhao wasn't attacking yet. Seeing that it was about time, Chen Zhao squatted down and pressed his hands on the deck. Instantly, electricity was released. Peter and Prague were the first to scream. The strong electricity numbed their bodies first, causing them to fall to the ground. At the same time, all the fishmen on the deck were electrocuted too. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao's control of the voltage was still very accurate. It could numb Peter and Prague, but it wasn't fatal. It did a lot of damage to the fishmen. Their size meant their resistance to electricity. Many inferior manfish were killed on the spot, and some passed out from the electric shock. The two only felt like they were electrocuted for a moment. They quickly climbed back up. What just happened? Peter still didn't understand. Prague knew. She'd seen Chen Zhao control lightning and electricity before, so she wasn't surprised by this attack. Chen Zhao looked at his right palm. It was indeed inconvenient without lightning storm. His individual power was already strong enough, but his range was very limited. The demon god cannon could be considered a medium to small range attack. It was powerful, but its range was still very limited. Its accuracy couldn't compare to lightning storm either. It wasn't hard to create pure damage. Especially if it had a large area of effect, it could be done with some explosives. With Qin Zhao's current connections and power, it really wasn't hard to get these things. But the problem was that if he threw these things out, he would be affected too. Therefore, other than large-scale damage, he also needed enough accuracy. Lightning Storm was the most perfect AoE skill to use. It covered a wide range, was accurate, controlled, and had decent damage. It basically matched Qin Zhao's 4 requirements for AoE attacks. If he had to point out a flaw, it would be the limitations of its usage. It could only be used in the headquarters. It could only be used for defense. It couldn't be used as an attack. For example, if Qin Zhao had Lightning Storm, the battle would be much easier. But Qin Zhao didn't have it. He couldn't help it. On the pirate ship, Gurette and her subordinates were even better than Qin Zhao's. Gurette had many people and a lot of heavy firepower. The fishmen that had climbed onto the pirate ship had already been cleaned up. Moreover, they were still attacking the surface of the sea, throwing grenades into the water. Meanwhile, on Qin Zhao's yacht, the mermen started climbing up again. Qin Zhao was also helpless about this situation. Unless Qin Zhao ignored Prague and Peter's lives and kept using the Eye of the Thunder. Qin Zhao could kill Rick and the other bandits, but Qin Zhao might kill the 2 of them because of that. Up until now, Qin Zhao had never killed an innocent person. He didn't even think that he had to kill an annoying young master like Peter. "You 2 step back. Leave the rest to me," Qin Zhao said. Prague retreated decisively while Peter looked at him in confusion. Shouldn't the more people, the better? Suddenly, Peter saw Qin Zhao's feet float off the deck. Breaking free from gravity? Peter widened his eyes and stared at Qin Zhao in shock. What was going on? Suddenly, Peter remembered that Prague had mentioned that Qin Zhao was a spiritualist. And then there was the inexplicable electric shock just now. Everything was proving Qin Zhao's true identity. Dark magma started spreading around Qin Zhao. Peter stared at Qin Zhao in shock. Qin Zhao flew a few meters into the air. Then he tilted forward and landed on the water. The dark magma spread toward the surface of the sea. At the same time, it started churning wildly. All the mermen that approached the yacht were instantly minced. Qin Zhao shouted at Peter and Prague, "Start the yacht. Go forward." Not daring to delay, the 2 hurriedly started the yacht. Amon was also in the water under Qin Zhao's feet. One was above the water and the other was below. Everything had been crushed by Qin Zhao and Amon. Just then, Amon jumped out of the water. Qin Zhao landed on Amon's back and steadied himself. A beam of white light shot out of Qin Zhao's right arm. It pierced through the darkness and cleared the area hundreds of meters in front of him. Peter and Prague were both stunned. That monster had teamed up with Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao looked at the pirate ship. The pressure on the ship suddenly increased. Even bigger monsters had boarded the ship. Those things were very similar to the legendary Naga. It had green scales, and its upper body resembled that of a fish, while its lower body resembled that of a human. Its body still retained many of the characteristics of a fish, and it had 4 thick limbs. Naga weren't created in the game. In fact, there were Naga sirens in Greek mythology. Qin Zhao immediately rushed toward the pirate ship. When Qin Zhao landed on the ship from the sky, everyone was stunned. Even Gurette didn't expect Qin Zhao to board her ship like this. Even Gurette didn't expect Qin Zhao to board her ship like this. "Set sail," Qin Zhao said. "I'll lead the way for you." With that, Qin Zhao dove into the battle again. The dark magma turned into long spears and stabbed into the water. Every time he stabbed a Naga, he would lift it up and then devour it through the mouth of gluttony. Gurette's subordinates had never seen such a terrifying and strange battle. They all stared at Qin Zhao, dumbfounded. "What are you waiting for?" Gurette yelled. "Set sail now." The two ships formed a straight line. The pirate ship was in front and the yacht followed. Chen Zhao led the way and killed at the front. They were getting closer and closer to Nanchi Island, but the attacks were getting fiercer. Amon leaped out of the water again and shot a water bomb dozens of meters away in midair. Wherever the water bomb landed, everything was crushed. The power of his water bomb wasn't any weaker than a 10-kilogram TNT bomb. The pirates on the pirate ship and Peter and Prague on the yacht were all dumbfounded. This man and beast were like killing gods. Even an army of thousands of men and horses could not stop their footsteps. Prague, you already knew? Have you forgotten that I went missing for 3 days? Our paranormal society accidentally intruded into his territory and witnessed him and his men fighting a group of demons. You haven't seen a real demon with your own eyes, so you can't imagine how scary he is. Chen Zhao's eyes hardened. He suddenly remembered. Even if the small mermen and Naga could defeat the Navy fleet, they wouldn't be able to keep the ships on the sea. Chapter 1272. Suddenly, a bloody mouth burst out of the sea and bit Chen Zhao in midair. Caught off guard, Chen Zhao was pulled into the sea. Everyone turned pale with fright when they saw this scene. They didn't expect Chen Zhao, who had been so powerful just a moment ago, to fall into such a trap. What was that thing that just rushed out of the sea? It looked like a crocodile, but did a crocodile have horns? Also, wasn't that body a little bigger? The bloody mouth above the water was more than 10 meters wide. Even Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to escape after being bitten by that thing, right? But not long after, the giant crocodile surfaced, and its upper jaw was completely broken. Chen Zhao was standing on the crocodile's mouth. He looked unscathed, and his eyes scanned the surroundings vigilantly. Just then, more crocodiles appeared around them. Not 3 to 5, not 30 to 50, there were hundreds of them. These crocodiles didn't just attack Chen Zhao. They also attacked the pirate ships and yachts. The pirate ship was fine. The pirates were armed, and their heavy firepower could barely kill 1 or 2 giant crocodiles. However, Peter and Prague on the yacht could do nothing. The yacht was knocked off course. Chen Zhao immediately rushed to the yacht. He saw that the bottom of the yacht was dented and damaged. Heartbroken, Chen Zhao immediately grabbed Peter and Prague. He lifted them into the air and threw them onto the pirate ship. The yacht had been severely damaged under the attack of the crocodiles. Chen Zhao was infuriated. The purpose of this trip was to look for treasures, but before he could earn any money, he had lost a yacht. Of course, Chen Zhao did not blame Guret. This was because Guret had reminded him many times before he left. This time, Chen Zhao and Guret were working together. Chen Zhao's mission was to help Guret land in the waters close to Nanchi Island. Even though the losses were more than expected, it was still Chen Zhao's own doing. Chen Zhao was going to drive the yacht himself. So, no matter what the loss was, he had to bear it himself. His only hope now was that the pirates' treasure on Nanchi Island could make up for his loss. But now was not the time for Chen Zhao to think too much. The giant crocodile began to attack the pirate ship. The pirate ship was sturdier than Chen Zhao's yacht. However, against such a group of giant crocodiles, the pirate ship would not be able to hold on for long. At this time, the pirate ship had already tilted, and several pirates slid from the tilted deck into the sea. Then, accompanied by a few screams, he was swallowed by the giant crocodile. No matter how hard Chen Zhao and Amon fought, they couldn't stop the crocodile from attacking the pirate ship. It couldn't be helped, there were just too many giant crocodiles. Chen! Help! Guret lay prone at the stern of the sinking ship. He looked at Peter and Prague, who were also struggling to protect themselves. The other pirates were also having a hard time protecting themselves. They either slid down or grabbed onto the handrails. Gulai didn't expect Nanchi Island to be so terrifying. Everything was a mess. Her and Chen Zhao's plan had been ruined by the attack of these crocodiles. Chen Zhao first mentioned Guret and then looked at Prague and Peter. He gritted his teeth and placed Guret on his back. Hold on tight. They swooped down at the same time and picked up Pete and Prague with both hands. Just then, he heard Amon's cry for help. Even he could not face so many mutant giant crocodiles. Chen Zhao placed the three on the barbed warship in the water and returned to the battlefield. Chen Zhao couldn't abandon Amon for the treasure. Guret's face was pale. She'd never experienced such despair in her life. But she also felt lucky. If not for Chen Zhao, she would be dead for sure. Looking at her pirate ship and her subordinates, Guret sighed. She'd watched her subordinates die and her pirate ship sink, but there was nothing she could do. Prague and Peter were also scared. If not for Chen Zhao's help, they would definitely be eaten by the crocodiles. These crocodiles were much bigger than the sharks from before. Every one of them was more than 20 meters long. Their mouths, in particular, were ridiculously large. It was no wonder that Amon couldn't beat them. If there were only a dozen, Amon could crush them in all aspects. But it wasn't just a dozen, but hundreds. But with Chen Zhao's participation, Amon's pressure was greatly reduced. Amon, you're in charge of devouring these monsters, Chen Zhao said. There was definitely a mutant god hidden on Nanqi Island, and this mutant god was definitely much stronger than the fallen source. After all, the fallen source couldn't create so many mutant monsters. This was like an army. In ancient times, it could definitely sweep through the world. Of course, if Amon could eat as much as he wanted, these mutant monsters would also be great nourishment. Of course, Amon didn't eat them all. He only devoured the mutant power in them. Once the mutant monsters were killed, Amon would immediately charge forward and devour them with power. Chen Zhao was so focused on killing that the entire sea turned blood red. At this moment, Guret, Peter, and Prague, who were nestled at the stern of the warship, were all dumbfounded as they watched this scene. Especially Peter. Before today, he didn't believe that there was magic in this world. But now, he had to believe it. Chen Zhao had killed more than 100 mutant crocodiles, but he didn't feel tired. This was the benefit of clear heaven and earth. Chen Zhao's small world could provide him with more magic power. At the same time, it could help him recover his magic power dozens of times faster. But if he continued such a high-intensity battle, his body would still feel tired. So, Chen Zhao decided to change tactics. Chen Zhao jumped out of the water. He took out his zither and placed it between his legs. 12 light swords were unsheathed. In the past, when Chen Zhao used rhythm to control the swords, he still had to consider his magic power consumption. But now, he didn't have to think at all. The mana consumption of the swords wasn't as fast as the recovery speed of the small world. Chen Zhao could play the zither until the end of time. The damage and killing speed of the swords were clearly much faster than physical combat. It was even faster than the mountain of knives formed from dark lava. The 12 light swords were like 12 death talismans. Although the 12 light swords might be damaged if they were to face some powerful opponents, they were still able to withstand the power of the swords. However, these mutant crocodiles were between strong and weak. They weren't strong or weak. Instead, they gave the light sword space to perform. The 12 swords darted in and out of the sea. Their killing efficiency was astounding. Chen Zhao had learned rhythm before ultimate transformation. Now, he was in Enchanting and clear heaven and earth were clear. Chapter 1273. Amon changed again. But this time, he didn't grow bigger. Instead, the wings under his belly grew bigger. They became extremely large, like a pair of wings growing from his belly. When Samuel's original body had summoned Chen Zhao had accidentally summoned Amon to hell. Chen Zhao had seen Amon's original body back then. Amon's original body could float in the air. Chen Zhao had always wondered if Amon was the so-called Kuanpeng. The more supernatural things Chen Zhao came into contact with, the more he believed in myths and legends. Now, Amon was also growing toward his original body. Master, I can feel it. There's a strong aura of an alien god on that island. It's very strong. Amon's warning was within Chen Zhao's expectations. To be able to make so many creatures mutate, the original body must be on Nanxi Island. Are there any other mutated creatures in the surrounding waters? Many, but they're not strong. Devour all the mutated creatures, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao looked at his boat. It had been completely destroyed in the chaotic battle. Now, he could only see the bottom of the boat in the sea. Chen Zhao was in a bad mood. He had to go to Nanxi Island to find the treasure. Now, Chen Zhao was invincible. He would kill whoever dared to stop him from finding the treasure. Chen Zhao went to the back of the boat. Because it wasn't big, Peter, Prague, and Gurette didn't even have space to move. Gurette, get on my back first. Carrying Gurette and Peter and Prague, Chen Zhao flew to Nanxi Island. Mr. Chen. You're Superman, right? Peter looked at Chen Zhao with bright eyes. Chen Zhao was in a bad mood. He wasn't in the mood to answer Peter's question. Gurette, it's up to you now. Chen Zhao had saved Gurette not only because they knew each other and could be considered friends, but also because Gurette was the key to this treasure hunt. She was the only person who had been to Nanxi Island. She'd said before that she and the original owner of the island, the big-bellied pirate family, were a bit pretentious. So, if Chen Zhao wanted to find the family's treasure, he could only rely on Gurette. Chen, are there monsters on the island? Yes, I can feel the aura of monsters. There are many and they're very strong. Chen Zhao didn't hide it. The aura was also very heavy, so Chen Zhao couldn't find where the monster was hiding. Nanxi Island's area was not big, it was less than 10 square kilometers. It wasn't even as big as Chen Zhao's private land at Mirror Lake. Nanxi Island's terrain was relatively simple. Not far away, there was a large mountain that occupied most of the island. Most of the island was made of rocks, and the ground was very wet. It looked like it had just risen from the sea level. Gurette's heart was heavy. Peter and Bragg's expressions became unnatural. But now, they had no other choice. He could only follow beside Chen Zhao. Let's go. Gu Lai led the way. Mr. Chen, why don't you just fly us? That way, we'll be able to find the treasure faster. I don't care. Chen Zhao shrugged. Flying with 3 people did put a lot of pressure on Chen Zhao, but Chen Zhao didn't know what to do. Carrying 3 people on the ground and carrying 3 people in the sky were 2 completely different concepts. He felt like he was flying with a tank in his hand. Gurette also looked at him. She also thought that it was a good idea. If a monster attacks later, I can only throw you down, Chen Zhao said. Are you willing? Never mind then. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, the 3 immediately understood. If they encountered a monster, with Chen Zhao's strength, he would definitely be fine. But if the 3 of them faced a monster, they would definitely die. Not to mention anything else, Chen Zhao would definitely throw them down when he fought a monster. If they fell from the sky, they would definitely die. To be honest, after arriving at Nanxi Island, the alien god's aura was much stronger than before. If this aura covered the entire island, Chen Zhao had to be careful. Such a powerful aura was probably 100 times stronger than the fallen source, right? So, if something happened, Chen Zhao would also go all out. He could barely protect the 3 on the ground, but if they flew into the sky, it would be even more difficult. Chen Zhao would rather be safe and approach the location of the treasure slowly instead of charging around recklessly. Gurette could vaguely sense Chen Zhao's expression. She also felt the pressure from Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had never been so serious before. When Chen Zhao had dealt with the 3-headed dragon, he had still been as casual as before. But this time, Chen Zhao was actually so serious. Gurette could only vaguely sense it. In fact, Chen Zhao had already used one of his trump cards, 10,000 spells returned to 1. 10,000 spells returned to one was one of Chen Zhao's strongest trump cards, but when Chen Zhao didn't attack, it gave off the feeling that it was the most ordinary. If one didn't face Chen Zhao directly, they definitely wouldn't understand how terrifying 10,000 spells returned to one was. To be honest, I'm really curious how the big-bellied family lives on Nanqi Island. The island spends half of its time in the water. They can't be in the water too, right? Gurette chuckled. What do you think of Nanqi Island's geology? Chen Zhao frowned and thought for a few minutes. What does this have to do with geology? The main structure of the island is Kosi granite, which has very good impermeability. What Miss Gurette means is that the family built their home under the rock stratum. That way, if the island sinks into the water, there won't be any problems as long as it's sealed well. Chen Zhao suddenly understood. No wonder. There were no buildings or even plants on the island. It didn't seem like people had lived here before. So it was to dig a hole and build a base underground. That made sense. When the big-bellied family stole the gold, it was less than a week before Nanqi Island sank. Their family thought that as long as Nanqi Island dived into the sea, even the Navy wouldn't be able to do anything to them. But they underestimated Citibank's determination and anger. The Navy appeared near Nanqi Island the next day and launched an attack on the island. Chen Zhao looked around. Because there was a lot of mud here, he couldn't tell that the island had been attacked. First, there was a large-scale bombing, then the Navy landed. After Nanqi Island was attacked, the big-bellied family couldn't fight back at all. Then, the biggest change happened. The demonic seal they'd been guarding for centuries was destroyed. The family and the Navy on the island were all destroyed. Chapter 1274. Gold and the wealth that the big-bellied family had accumulated over hundreds of years. Now, these things were on the island, right under their feet. Peter and Bragg didn't want a share of the loot. It was already good enough that Chen Zhao could send them back. A share? Peter and Bragg only wanted Lothar now. The entire island was covered in mud. The mud had been brought up from the bottom of the sea. There was also a large amount of seafood along the way. Of course, most of them had died from dehydration. Some of the mud had dried up, but many places were still soft. Suddenly, the ground before them arched. There seemed to be something hidden under the mud, and it was rushing towards them from under the mud. Gurette, Peter, and Bragg all stopped. Chen Zhao walked forward. He also wanted to see what was coming. Something had come to help him vent his anger when he was angry. A few meters in front of Chen Zhao, the mud suddenly exploded. A multicolored lobster jumped out of it. Yes, it was a lobster. The only difference was that he was a little bigger. It was 20 meters long and its skin was like a mollusk. It kept changing colors. It waved its pincers at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao threw a clean punch. Gurette, Peter, and Bragg knew that Chen Zhao was strong. But the lobster before them wasn't weak either, right? At least they thought that Chen Zhao would have a fight with the lobster. But the result made their jaws drop. Chen Zhao's seemingly casual punch actually shattered the 20-meter-long lobster. Is this lobster made of foam? The pieces of the lobster spread in a radius of 100 meters. So, if one didn't face Chen Zhao directly, they wouldn't know how strong Chen Zhao's punch was. This mutant lobster was definitely stronger than those mutant giant crocodiles. But Chen Zhao's punch had smashed it into pieces. At this time, more mutant lobsters crawled out of the mud. There were dozens of them. They weren't just lobsters. More mutated creatures crawled out of the mud. Mutated crab, mutated octopus, an assortment of creatures appeared before Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao summoned Blackened Bustil. When Bustil appeared, Peter and Gurette were both shocked. Prague, on the other hand, had seen Bustil before, so he wasn't surprised. Everyone thought that Blackened Bustil was going to participate in the battle, but that wasn't the case. The Blackened Buster was there to protect them. Meanwhile, Chen Zhao charged into the group of monsters. The dark magma was like a sea urchin, turning into countless spikes that shot out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through a dozen mutated monsters. However, Chen Zhao was still not satisfied with this killing speed. Swordplay was not suitable for this battle. This was because most of these mutant creatures had shells. Through close contact, Chen Zhao could tell that the shells of these mutated creatures were very hard. It was not the time for his 12 light swords to fight. If he was not careful and slashed the mutated monster's shell, the result might be the disintegration light sword. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat. The dark magma was ever-changing. He seemed to be limited to simulating blades. Chen Zhao lifted his arms. The dark lava suddenly rose by 100 feet. Spin! Chen Zhao shouted. Immediately, the dark magma started spinning wildly. The dark magma turned into a tornado. The center of the dark magma was hollow. However, on the inner wall, there were countless sword edges. It was like a drum washing machine, spinning wildly. To Chen Zhao, this drum washing machine was another big move. Moreover, it consumed more magic power than swordplay. However, after killing the mutant monsters, the dark magma devoured more and more of the unusual god's power. This caused the dark magma's power to increase by another level. The tornado formed by the dark magma became even stronger. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't want to be called a drum washing machine. Chen Zhao named it Dark Storm. Previously, Chen Zhao had been thinking about ranged attacks. Now, he finally developed a killer move that belonged to the dark magma. The tornado grew larger and larger. The more monsters it devoured, the bigger it became. The mutant creatures tried to escape, but they couldn't. The suction force of the tornado was too strong. In a short 20 minutes, all the mutant monsters were devoured by the tornado. All of a sudden, a vast expanse opened up in front of them. Everything had been cleared. Chen Zhao had an idea. He immediately called to Gurette, "Sit on my pet's back. Let's move faster." Gurette was confused. Chen Zhao hadn't been in a hurry earlier. Why was he in such a hurry now? But Chen Zhao didn't have time to explain. After the three climbed onto Bustil's back, Chen Zhao also flew. Which direction? That way, Gurette said, pointing. The entrance to the Big Belly family's base was set halfway up the mountain. Their base was hidden in the mountain. Dark Bustil flapped its wings and rushed in that direction. Chen Zhao flew in the front. But just then, a large number of mutant monsters appeared below. Only a few of them could fly. Or they could attack the air. Chen Zhao controlled the dark storm to sweep across the ground. As for the flying mutant monsters, Chen Zhao dealt with them personally. Gurette and the other two sat behind Bustil. They were worried that they would fall, but they were also worried about Chen Zhao's battle. Chen Zhao didn't put Bustil away until they reached the entrance of the mountain. The three heaved a sigh of relief, but Chen Zhao seemed to be in a hurry right now. Hurry. Don't waste time. We'll leave after we get what we want. Chen, why are you in such a hurry? Gurette asked, confused. Chen Zhao looked around and shook his head. I can't say. Just then, the ground started shaking violently. It's starting. What's starting? Stop nagging. Which way should we go? The Big Belly family's base is up ahead. After entering the belly of the mountain, Gurette found a button and pressed it. A hole appeared in the stone wall in front of him. The stone wall was still a modern password door. It wasn't too high-tech or complicated. There were also traces of seawater here. It was probably because Nanshi Island had unexpectedly sunk during the attack. The Big Belly family didn't have time to seal the entrance, so seawater flooded into the base and the Big Belly family was wiped out. Along the way, there were some corpses that had been soaked in seawater. They were definitely the Big Belly family members. Chapter 1275. The Potbelly family's base was built in the middle of the mountain. It had a modern feel. A large area of metal was laid out. Even though it had been soaked in seawater, it was still a nice building structure. How much further? Qin Zhao urged. It's pretty deep, Gurette said. She was anxious too, mainly because she was affected by Qin Zhao's emotions. She could feel Qin Zhao's anxiety. She didn't know what Qin Zhao had discovered that made him so anxious. But for him to be so anxious, it definitely wasn't something good. Qin, did you discover something? Find the gold and the Potbelly family's treasure as soon as possible, Qin Zhao said. Suddenly, a piece of meat surged out from the tunnel ahead. The piece of meat was like soft mud as it flowed through the tunnel towards the four of them. Gurette jumped in fright. Qin Zhao raised his arm. Just as the meat was about to reach him, a white light flashed. The meat was penetrated, but it kept wriggling. After the wriggling, the meat formed a face. Humans, you shouldn't be here. Leave now and I can forgive your ignorance and offense. Gurette, Peter, and Prague all looked at Qin Zhao. It was their first time seeing a monster that could speak. Qin Zhao's nervousness disappeared, replaced by a smile. You're the unusual god that's been sealed here. Since you know I'm a god, you still dare to come here? Do you not want to live? I wasn't sure at first, but now I'm completely sure. Qin Zhao grinned. You want to sink, right? Leave, or else you'll be buried in the deep sea forever, just like the humans who used to live here. They'll all die here. The flesh on the face kept wriggling, giving off a terrifying feeling. Even if you sink into the sea, you can't stop me, Qin Zhao said. I know what's hidden in the depths. You want the Potbelly family's treasure, right? I can give it to you. Leave now. Gurette and the others stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. Had the monster been scared by Qin Zhao? He actually took the initiative to hand over the treasures. Your children attacked me and destroyed my ship, Qin Zhao said matter-of-factly. You made me suffer heavy losses. Why should I let you go? I don't just want the treasure. I want more. That's right. Then I'll destroy the treasure. I'll make it so that you'll never be able to obtain it, the abnormal god threatened angrily. If I'm missing even a single cent, I'll let you suffer in hellfire for eternity. You'll have your flesh and blood sliced apart. Furthermore, your heart is hidden in the depths of this place. I've killed otherworldly gods before, and you're not the first. I'm very experienced, and I know how to kill you. At this moment, everyone felt that this so-called otherworldling god was not scary at all. The truly terrifying one was this man. This so-called god was actually afraid of Qin Zhao. Faced with Qin Zhao's threat, it actually didn't know what to do. I've already given you all the treasures. What else do you want? I said I want more, Qin Zhao said. What exactly do you want? Accept my dominance. Don't even think about it. I won't accept the dominance of a mere human, ever. Negotiation is over. Scram. Just wait for your heart to be crushed. Your core, your will, and your soul will all be destroyed by me. The ground started shaking violently. Gurette, Peter, and Prague couldn't stand steadily. But Qin Zhao was unmoved. He looked at the twisted face calmly. If you could break free, you would have done so long ago. You wouldn't have waited until now. Qin Zhao now completely understood the truth about Nanxi Island. Nanxi Island's original form was that of the otherworldly god. However, the otherworldly god's body was covered by a thick layer of rock. This was its true seal. Back then, the Navy's attack hadn't really undone its seal. It had just cracked the rock layer, causing its power to seep out through the cracks. As long as Nanxi Island remained, as long as the rock formations of Nanxi Island remained, he would never be able to escape. Qin Zhao's previous impatience was because he could feel that Nanxi Island was sinking. If they couldn't find the treasure before it sank, Gurette wouldn't be able to continue leading the way. But this otherworldly god had run out of its own accord and appeared before Chen Zhao. This confirmed one thing. If it was only for the treasure, the otherworldly god wouldn't have needed to appear before him at all. It had only appeared because it was afraid. Afraid that Chen Zhao would find its core. Its heart was in the depths of this base. It should be with the treasure. It wasn't easy for me to escape from that place. I will not be controlled by anyone again. Absolutely not. The unusual god threatened. I may not be able to kill you, but... I might not be able to kill you, but I can kill your companions. The surrounding ground, walls, and ceiling started collapsing and sinking. Guret's expression became extremely ugly. The otherworldly god's threat was meaningless to Chen Zhao. Air. God, your threat is useless to him. If I die, he won't need my share. He'll be happy for you to kill me, Guret said helplessly. What about the two humans? They're just unimportant people. I don't think he'll give up his goal for them. The otherworldly god was speechless too. Why was this guy so difficult to deal with? Must you be so ruthless? Don't make it sound so bad. I don't plan on killing you. Chen Zhao shrugged. I just want to control you and dominate you. I can pledge my loyalty to you, but I won't accept being controlled by you. Prague, Peter, and Guret all looked at him in disbelief. A god was actually pledging loyalty to Chen Zhao? Chen Zhao shook his head. I know you, otherworldly god. Oaths are meaningless to you. It's the same for me. I only believe in things that I can control. Even Guret and the other two felt that Chen Zhao's request was too much. Of course, the three of them didn't have any stance right now. After all, their lives were in Chen Zhao's hands. I accept your domination, but not forever. I'll only accept 100 years of servitude, the otherworldly god said. Anyway, 100 years is long enough for you humans. Chen Zhao thought about it. Indeed, he would probably die of old age in 100 years. Fine, 100 years, Chen Zhao said. But can you move? Chapter 1276. Chen Zhao thought about it and realized that it made sense. If the otherworldly god could move, he would have run long ago. He wouldn't be trapped here. What do you mean by moving a little? The mountain pressing down on me is too heavy. If you can help me reduce it, I can move faster. Chen Zhao wouldn't fall for it. What if it ran away after he reduced its burden? It was fine like this. Move, Chen Zhao ordered. The otherworldly god was very unwilling, but it had no other choice now. If it didn't submit to Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't let it go. But to it, 100 years wasn't unacceptable. To humans, 100 years was a lifetime, but to it, it wasn't too long. Under the otherworldly god's lead, Chen Zhao, Guret, Peter, and Prague finally arrived at a huge treasury. There were many boxes inside. Some of them looked very old. However, many had been soaked in seawater and were seriously damaged. But the most eye-catching thing was that there was a huge ball of flesh hanging in the middle of the treasury. The ball kept bouncing up and down and glowed weakly. Chen Zhao opened a box. There should have been some paper-based collections in the box. But now, there were only picture frames and some scraps. Chen Zhao's heart ached. This was all money. There might even be some famous artist's work. Chen Zhao walked up to the ball. It had a diameter of more than 40 meters. It was very huge. Chen Zhao placed his palm on it. A human face immediately appeared on it. Human, I've already submitted to you. Please don't hurt me. Ha! Who would believe a verbal submission? Humans didn't believe in oaths and neither did Chen Zhao. The dark lava started seeping into the otherworldly god's heart. Back then, the source of the fallen had been corroded by the dark serum. But there hadn't been a lot. It could only cause some damage to the source of the fallen but couldn't control it. It was different now. Chen Zhao's dark serum had turned into dark lava and the amount had increased by 100 times. It wasn't difficult to corrode the otherworldly god's heart. Wait. The otherworldly god resisted with all its might. Swear on your magic that you'll return my freedom in 100 years. I swear on my magic that I'll return your freedom in 100 years. Oh, what's your name? Sardin's starry shadow. The darkness in this area is your territory, right? That's right. To be honest, if Sardin wasn't sealed, he didn't know if he could beat him. Such a large domain was tens of thousands of times larger than his own small world. Of course, the size of the domain did not represent the strength of the user. But to a certain extent, it did have an impact. However, Chen Zhao had predicted the outcome. If the two of them really fought, neither of them should be able to do anything to the other. If he used all his trump cards, he might even have a chance to defeat Sardin. What's your domain skill? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Although Guret, Peter, and Prague didn't understand what they were talking about, they felt that it was very impressive. Evernight, Zayden replied. What's the effect? Just create a curtain of night? Chen Zhao was speechless. If it was just creating a dark space, what was the point? Could it be that in a battle of the same level, he would have to rely on darkness to win? No, it's vision deprivation. All enemies who enter my domain will be deprived of their vision. Chen Zhao thought about it. If that was the case, it would indeed be troublesome. Although it wasn't a direct attack, if one's vision was deprived, it would indeed be troublesome for people who weren't familiar with absolute darkness. Even Chen Zhao wasn't confident that he could defeat Sardin without his vision. Then why didn't you use it before? I'm sealed here. How do you think I should use it? Chen Zhao was still somewhat glad, even if he didn't win gloriously. Starting from Sardin's heart, Chen Zhao's dark lava fused into every corner of Sardin's body. At the same time, Chen Zhao could sense Sardin's real body. Sardin's real body was extremely huge, even larger than the mountain they were on. However, his body was completely covered by rocks. His lower body had many tentacles that were connected to the seabed. Looking at the whole picture, Sardin's body was more like a multi-legged bug. Then Chen Zhao and Guret started to sort out the collections of the big-bellied families. The original 4 tons of gold had been reduced by the seawater, so it was estimated to be around 200 kilograms. This was unavoidable. After all, they'd been soaked in seawater for more than 3 years and the seawater was extremely corrosive. Secondly, there were a large number of collections. Some paper and cloth collections had been completely destroyed by the seawater. However, there were also some metal collections, large numbers of gold and silver coins, porcelain utensils, and many gems. Suddenly, Chen Zhao found a golden awl among the many collections. It was very beautiful and hadn't been corroded by the seawater. The golden awl was about 40 centimeters long and weighed about 500 grams. There was a Buddha carved on the handle of the awl. The golden awl looked like a Buddhist ritual implement, but from its shape, it didn't look like a Chinese Zen or a Tibetan Tantra. It looked more like an Indian ritual implement. I want this, Chen Zhao said. Guret looked at the golden awl in Chen Zhao's hand and nodded. Chen Zhao was already very trustworthy to keep his promise and share the treasures with her. Now that Chen Zhao only wanted a golden awl, she wouldn't have any objections. Mr. Chen, how do we split the rest of the treasures? Do we do it after sorting it out, or do we split it now? Chen Zhao didn't know what was valuable and what wasn't. Chen Zhao had suffered the same loss before. This time, Chen Zhao decided to find someone familiar. We'll bring the things to Hawaii. You find someone with authority and I'll find someone too. Then we'll discuss and decide whether to split the treasures or just split the money. What do you think? Okay. Guret nodded. This was the fairest way. At least in the end, neither side would have any complaints. Guret could hear Chen Zhao's sincerity. Chen Zhao didn't want to make a one-time deal. Although Guret didn't put in much effort this time, Chen Zhao wasn't worried. Gurette didn't do much this time, but without her, he definitely wouldn't have gotten so much wealth. If Gurette had other good deals in the future, she could definitely work with him again. So, Chen Zhao hoped that both sides would part on good terms. If neither side was satisfied in the distribution, it would be difficult to work with them again. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed everything. Everything disappeared. The three were shocked by Chen Zhao's move, but thinking about Chen Zhao's identity, it wasn't surprising. Everyone went to the shore again. Looking at the vast ocean, Gurette looked at Chen Zhao. How do we go back? Can you bring us back? Chen Zhao looked at the shore. Amon. Amon suddenly rushed to the shore, giving everyone a fright. Chapter 1277. Prague, Peter, and Gurette experienced riding on the wind for the first time. They felt that the huge beast under their feet was Poseidon's mount. Only Poseidon had the right to ride such a huge beast. West, remember that I told you last time that I went out to sea for treasure? Chen Zhao said. Find some art experts and relic experts and bring them to Hawaii. Yes, we found it. Now we need to appraise it and estimate its value. Chen Zhao and West had discussed this before. They would use 200 million as an example. Using $200 million as an example, they would have to pay at least $25 in fees. Of course, this would be done in the name of the association. The association could get around 15% of the money, which meant that the actual fee to be paid was around 10%. This was much lower than the fees of money laundering organizations. It was also within Chen Zhao's acceptable range. However, the income this time shouldn't be that much. Chen Zhao and Gurette had both estimated their income this time. The value of the treasure shouldn't be more than $400 million. Among them, gold was the easiest to sell, while art and collectibles would be relatively cheaper. This time, they had to sell all of them. Neither Chen Zhao nor Gurette could sell them one by one. If they were put up for auction one by one, they could increase their value. It might even reach $500 to $600 million. However, Chen Zhao and Gurette didn't have the time to do that, so they would only sell for half of the actual market price. Chen Zhao couldn't say whether he was happy or unhappy. He was happy to find the treasure, but the income wasn't as big as he'd imagined. This made him slightly disappointed. Plus the loss of the yacht, Chen Zhao had only bought Feilai for $12 million. However, the actual cost of the yacht was at least $40 million. The market price would definitely reach $60 million. This meant that Chen Zhao's actual income after deducting the loss this time was less than $100 million. Chen Zhao sat on Amon's head, holding the golden awl. In Buddhism, the guardian Vajra wielded a Vajra awl or a Vajra axe. It could shoot out thunderbolts and release monstrous karmic fire. Chen Zhao used magic to test it. There was nothing special about the awl. When Chen Zhao saw the awl, his instincts told him that there was something special about it. However, after trying a few times, he didn't find anything special about the awl. Chen Zhao was somewhat disappointed. He put the awl away. By this time, Amon had already left the vicinity of Nanchi Island and the sky was already bright. Amon's speed was very fast, exceeding 200 nautical miles per hour. What did that mean? This was basically the speed of an express train. However, the sea was stormy and rough, so Gurette, Peter, and Prague weren't very comfortable. The novelty of the beginning was gone, and all that was left was boredom and pain. Thankfully, Chen Zhao could always take out food and water. At least they didn't have to starve. The next morning, everyone arrived at the waters of the Hawaiian Islands. However, the four of them pretended to be drowned in a shipwreck and were rescued by a nearby ship. They arrived in Hawaii on the same day. Peter, I hope the money you promised can be transferred to my account as soon as possible. If I don't get the money before I return to Los Angeles, I'll get it from you personally. Do you understand? Of course. I understand. You don't want to pay what you owe? Pete didn't think he was qualified. Not to mention, it was only $2 million. He could afford it. He had no idea how he could survive if he offended Chen Zhao for $2 million. Prague also left, but she didn't take the same flight as Peter. She was disappointed in Pete during this trip. Chen Zhao stayed in Guret's pirate hotel. The next day, West arrived. At the same time, he brought 2 experts with him. From West's introduction, Chen Zhao knew that they were appraisal experts working for a large auction company. They were experts, not scholars. They wouldn't ask about the origin of the appraised item, nor would they say that the item should be handed over to the country. Of course, if possible, they would persuade the person to hand the item over to their company for auction or sell it directly to their company. Guret's specialist had also arrived. To everyone's surprise, Guret's specialist knew Chen Zhao's 2 specialists. They were also in the same field, but they belonged to different companies. They probably communicated with each other before. Guret led everyone to the warehouse, where Chen Zhao and Guret's harvest was placed. Apart from the gold, Guret and Chen Zhao had already split the gold in half. The rest were the big-bellied family's collection. There were more than 1,000 of them, so appraising their origin and value would be very tedious work. Some were intact, while others were severely damaged or had been corroded by seawater. For Chen Zhao and Guret, this was a huge loss. The value of a complete collection and a damaged one were not the same. Rare and non-rare items had different values. In this collection, there was no lack of priceless treasures. However, most of them were only worth a few thousand or tens of thousands of dollars. Perhaps 1 or 2 items weren't worth much, but when put together, the total value was still very high. Another type was unappraised, which meant that their origin and age couldn't be appraised. Chen Zhao and Guret were specially picked out and split the loot evenly between them. The 3 experts appraised the items for 5 days. It wasn't like the 3 experts appraised the items together. Chen Zhao and Guret's experts appraised separately. They would only appraise the items with different prices at the same time to confirm the value. In the end, they got a total value of $235 million. With an actual price, it was easier to distribute. Chen Zhao and Guret started to distribute the items. Then, under West's control, the items were all sold to the auction company that the 2 experts worked for. With the auction company's participation, the money was easier to handle. However, the money couldn't be seen yet. West still had to find a professional finance company to handle it. Chen Zhao didn't know how to do it, so he didn't know how to do it. Anyway, he just had to sit and collect the money. What made him happy was that the income this time wasn't too different from his expectations. Chen Zhao had expected to earn $200 million. Now, he'd sold the items for $120 million. Together with the 2 tons of gold, it was almost $200 million. After deducting the middleman's fees, there was at least $150 million. Of course, Chen Zhao had to include the yacht that he'd lost. Chapter 1278. Chen, when are you coming back? Something happened at home. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Or is Jerlin sick? No, it was the day before yesterday when I took the children to our new home because I rented a yacht. At that time, when we were at sea, we found a fishing boat fishing for sharks outside our beach, so I asked them to stop fishing for sharks. In the end, they used water cannons to hit our yacht, and Little Nine secretly followed them. At night, I heard that Little Nine capsized their fishing boat and killed a man, but among the survivors, someone took a photo, and now the news media is reporting this news, and they even took photos to prove it. Xiao Jiu is too reckless, Chen Zhao said casually. He had to give Little Nine a reward later. Good job. How dare they use water cannons to attack Fei Lai in their own territory? How dare they attack her with water cannons? If he could find those people, Chen Zhao would definitely throw them all into the furnace of hell and burn them clean. I'll go back tomorrow. Oh, Fei Lai, your Fei Lai accidentally went silent. Chen Zhao really didn't want to talk about this. After all, the boat was named after Fei Lai. Are you okay? I'm fine. That's good. After we go back, we'll buy a bigger boat and name it after you, Chen Zhao said. Fei Lai didn't mind. She just wanted Chen Zhao to be safe. A woman with a child would always want her family to be safe and sound. Chen Zhao had wanted to go back to Los Angeles after today's matter. However, West hadn't booked a plane ticket today. The earliest he could get was a flight ticket for tomorrow. Of course, Chen Zhao could fly back, but that would be too ostentatious. Plus, Los Angeles wasn't close. Chen Zhao didn't want to fly that far. On the other side, Guret's gains weren't less than Chen Zhao's, so she treated Chen Zhao and West warmly. Of course, Guret's losses weren't less than Chen Zhao's. After all, she hadn't just lost a pirate ship. She'd also lost dozens of subordinates. The family compensation for these subordinates wasn't a small amount. Pirates didn't need compensation. In this day and age, anyone who carried a gun had compensation. Sunshine, beaches, and tourists from all over the world. This was the specialty of Hawaii Island. As the world's most famous leisure resort island, Hawaii Island had all the entertainment projects one could imagine. Chen Zhao arrived at the beach. There were tourists everywhere. Also, the sea breeze here was a little warm. The native population of Hawaii was less than 1 million, but it received tens of millions of tourists every year. Its annual GDP was close to $60 billion. One could imagine how many tourists there were. This was Chen Zhao's second time coming to Hawaii, but he hadn't really gone there for fun either time. He'd always come to Hawaii as a transit stop. Today, he went out mainly to feel the atmosphere of Hawaii. As the most famous tourist island in the world, what was different about it from other places? Chen Zhao sat beside the stone, feeling a bit bored. West had wanted to come out and play with Chen Zhao. However, Chen Zhao rejected him. If it were a woman, Chen Zhao would be more than happy to go. Unfortunately, West was a man. Just then, a volleyball hit Chen Zhao's head. Chen Zhao turned around and saw two beauties in bikinis. One was fair-skinned and looked a bit shy. The other had healthy wheat-colored skin. She was slightly tall but rather voluptuous. Sorry, uncle. Are you okay? Uncle? Chen Zhao's mouth twitched. They seemed to be only a few years younger than him. Why did they call him uncle? Did he look that old? It seemed that he needed to take care of himself. Chen Zhao touched his hair and shook his head. Watching two girls in bikinis play beach volleyball was quite a pleasant thing to watch. After a while, the two girls stopped. The tall girl said a few words to the fair-skinned girl and then left. After a while, the tall girl returned. She brought 2 bottles of drinks to Chen Zhao and handed one to him. Uncle, are you here for vacation? No. Then are you here for work? Sort of. No wonder you're so lonely here. The tall girl was rather cheerful and friendly. I'm Jamie's and she's Tarinko. Do you want to play beach volleyball with us? Me? I've never played before. It's okay. We're normal, Jamie said. If you can beat us, $10 per ball. How about that? Of course, if you lose, it's still $10 per ball. Fine. Chen Zhao went to the beach. It was good to win a few $dozen. The girl was clearly trying to scam him out of his money. Why should he be merciful? But, 10 minutes later, Chen Zhao deeply understood what the phrase, "dreams are beautiful, but reality is cruel," meant. Chen Zhao pounced. The ball touched the net, but it hit the net. Every time the ball was about to hit the ground, Chen Zhao could catch it, but he couldn't control his strength at all. Volleyball was a very technical sport. It was even more technical than soccer and basketball. You couldn't just play it as long as you could catch the ball. Chen Zhao couldn't even see the ball clearly when he kicked. After 10 minutes, Chen Zhao had already lost more than 10 balls. No one liked to keep losing. Chen Zhao was depressed. Let's stop. It's boring. Chen Zhao took out $200 from his wallet and patted his jacket on the beach. Don't go. Let's play again. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes and left dejectedly. Jamies, you can't be like this. You're scamming money again. Scamming money? I didn't. I earned it with my own abilities, Jamie said proudly. You clearly used magic. Just then, both of them received a message on their phones. Boss wants us to meet up. The two went to an office building and pressed the elevator button for the 13th floor. When the two of them arrived, everyone in the office was already there. Boss, we're here. Also, this is an office. Can you consider us non-smokers? Kingsley was smoking by the window. Hearing Jamie's words, he put the cigarette out on his tongue. Okay, everyone's here. Let's get to the main topic. The North American Psychic Competition is starting. It's held in Los Angeles. Get ready. We're going there tomorrow. Chapter 1279. Among the four ancient civilizations, only China still had a relatively complete heritage. That was why China had always been a superpower, followed by Europe. Although the Middle Ages in Europe were the Dark Ages for most people, it was also the Dark Ages that created Europe's alternative civilization. Then there was Africa. Most of the time, Africa gave people the impression that it was poor and backward. Moreover, there were very few spiritualists in Africa. Most of them were wizards supported by tribes. However, once a spiritualist came out of Africa, they were extremely powerful. Then there was Africa's Egypt. Although the ancient Egyptian civilization had been cut off, there were still many families that continued their ancient heritage. There were also many powerful spiritualists in those families. Then there was South America. There were many spiritualists in South America, but their strength varied. They were mainly divided into druids and shamans, as well as a small number of ancient Inca civilization inheritances. North America was recognized as the weakest region in the supernatural world. For example, the supernatural organization of the past. Such a weak organization could actually become an official supernatural organization. There were even organizations that were weaker than the supernatural organization. Some organizations even had a few awakened spiritualists who dared to form their own faction. Thus, Gimli formed his own team and called it the Guard. They had some connections with the Hawaii state government and were the only supernatural organization in Hawaii. Gimli led the Guard and helped the Hawaii state government solve many problems. Now, there were 8 people in the Guard, including Gimli. Apart from solving supernatural incidents in Hawaii, the Guard's daily tasks were to earn extra money and learn from other organizations outside of Hawaii. Ever since the Guard was established, it had interacted with many supernatural organizations around the world. Organizations in China, Japan, Europe, and Africa had all interacted with the Guard. Of course, it was more like learning than communication. Generally speaking, when two supernatural organizations communicated, they would exchange a few minor spells for each other to express their friendship. This made the Guard think that the North American Guard could look down on everyone. They even looked down on the supernatural organizations in North America. They felt that only organizations outside of North America were qualified to communicate with them. Even the Witch Society and the Sorcerer Society, which were at the peak of their power, only thought that the other party had more people. After the Witch Society and the Sorcerer Society were destroyed last year, their mentality was even more obvious. The North American Psychic Contest was held once every 3 years. So far, it had been held 8 times, and the Guards had basically participated in every single contest. In the last 3 tournaments, the Guards had always been the champions. The champions of the last competition were Jamies and Dorinko. At that time, they were 16 and 18 years old respectively, but their skills amazed everyone. Even the Witch Society had extended an olive branch to them, hoping that they could join the Witch Society. Half of the guards didn't want to go, and the other half wanted to go to Los Angeles. "Boss, must we go?" Although the North American Psychic Contest is a little underwhelming, this year's prize is very good. It's the skeleton of a powerful magical creature. If we can win the championship, then we can make the mana potion. This year's competition is a little different, so all of us have to participate. Jean Lee said, "Well, go and get ready. I've booked tickets for tomorrow." Gurette sent Chen Zhao and West to the airport. As the owner of this place, Gurette had been taking care of Chen Zhao and West for the past few days. Although her people had suffered heavy casualties this time, Gurette was still very satisfied with the cooperation. Because of Chen Zhao's integrity, he didn't break the agreement because of violence. Moreover, both sides had done their best in what they were supposed to do. As for the fact that her people had been killed for provoking Chen Zhao, Gurette had long forgotten about it. She had warned them time and time again, but they just wouldn't listen. Who could stop a group of people that wanted to die? "Chen, be careful. We'll reach Los Angeles after we get off the plane." "I don't know where I need to be careful." "Okay. Next time, bring your family to Hawaii. Remember to stay in my hotel." "What about me?" "Of course, you're welcome too, Mr. West." "Okay, we're boarding now. Bye." "Bye." Chen Zhao waved at West. When they reached the departure lounge, West said, "President, the North American Light Society invited us to participate in the North American Psychic Conference. Should we go?" "What's the North American Light Society?" The Society of Light is also an international organization, and it has some connections with the Supernatural International Association. They can be considered competitors. There's a division in Korea called the Oriental Society of Light, and a division in Europe called the European Society of Light. There's also the North American Society of Light. The Society of Light isn't divided by countries, but by regions. Their principles are similar to the Supernatural International Association, and they're all responsible for maintaining the peace of the supernatural in the region. However, they're different from the Supernatural International Association's conservative nature. Since we're competitors, why did they invite us? It's probably to suppress and humiliate us. We're a division of the Supernatural Organization. The North American Light Society has always been hostile toward us, West said. Actually, we've participated twice. The first time was because we broke the rules, and the second time, we were last. Then we won't go, Chen Zhao said calmly. Since they're trying to humiliate us, why should we join them? Plus, they're just a bunch of clowns. What's there to compete with? If it's a supernatural organization, we can consider interacting with them. West had wanted to go because the supernatural organization wasn't the same as it had been in the past. With the strength of the North American supernatural world, West was confident that they could win the competition. But hearing Chen Zhao's words, he felt that it made sense. They couldn't say that they were super powerful now, but they were at least close. Especially Chen Zhao. He was the supernatural organization's biggest face. It wouldn't be right for him to participate in such a low-level competition. Actually, Chen Zhao had considered this before this trip. After returning from the treasure hunt, he wouldn't go far. Fei Lai's belly was getting bigger. He should stay by her side and take care of her instead of letting himself go everywhere. His second child would be born in 3 months. When Jerlin was born, he hadn't been able to see her. This time, he had to see his child born no matter what. Of course, he hoped that his second child would be a daughter. Chen Zhao wondered if he should ask the handsome guy for a wishing ring and wish that his second child would be a daughter. Chapter 1280. Yes, President. Do you want me to suppress this? West was confused. He'd heard about it. He'd also seen the photo and recognized that the attacking Hydra was from Chen Zhao's family. However, the location wouldn't make people think of Chen Zhao. It was also too late to suppress it now because it was already too big. West felt that there was no need to care about it anymore. No, I want you to find the people on the fishing boat when it happened and cast a blind curse on all of them. Why? West's face darkened. What was the point of this prank? Did Qin Zhao have a grudge against those people? If a blind curse was used on a spiritualist, they would only be blind for 10 minutes at most. But if it was used on a regular person without magic, they would be blind for at least 10 days. They used a water cannon on Feilai, Qin Zhao said. That's why Xiao Jiao attacked them. If you don't want to, forget it. I'll do it myself. I'll do it, West said hurriedly. It was just a few blind curses. Hearing Qin Zhao's explanation, it meant that they deserved it. But if Qin Zhao did it, it wouldn't be as simple as a blind curse. A blind curse was a regular curse. It could cause temporary trouble, but it wouldn't cause any actual damage. But if Qin Zhao did it, who knew if they could stay intact? Oh, remember to add a panic curse. Suddenly, Qin Zhao felt his neck being strangled. Then, a hard muzzle was pressed against his temple. A man who was 1.7 meters tall and had a thick beard was strangling Qin Zhao's neck and pointing the muzzle at his head. He has a gun. What is he doing? In an instant, the entire departure lounge was in chaos. Everyone was retreating in a panic. Sir. What are you doing? West was also dumbfounded. Hostage? Kidnapping Qin Zhao? I want to see my daughter, the man roared. I want to see her now. Qin Zhao could feel that the man was also panicking. The arm around Qin Zhao's neck also didn't have any strength. Any ordinary person would probably be able to break free, let alone Qin Zhao. Where is your daughter? Beside that bitch. I don't care. I want my daughter. Bring my daughter here, or I'll kill him. By then, the airport security had also arrived. They formed a circle around the two. Sir, can you communicate properly? Someone is going to get hurt, West said. He wasn't worried about Qin Zhao's safety at all. On the contrary, he was worried about the safety of this father who loved his daughter to the point of madness. At this moment, a few people emerged from the crowd. Yo, isn't this uncle? Qin Zhao glanced at Jamie's, then turned his head away without saying anything. Have you been kidnapped? Do you need my help? Leave. I don't want to see you. Do you want me to save you because you lost $200 to me yesterday? Gimli turned his head and asked, do you know him? We know each other. Boss, are you going to make a move? None of you are suitable to fight. Let me do it. Suddenly, Qin Zhao felt a wave of magic. Qin Zhao looked up at Gimli. He saw that Gimli's fingers were moving subtly. Then, Qin Zhao heard rapid breathing from the man holding Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao realized that the man's clothes were being tightened. Qin Zhao realized that his pants were being tightened too. What kind of magic is this? It can shrink clothes and pants. The man's breathing became difficult. Then, he fell to the ground, his face bright red. Everyone thought that the hostage had suddenly suffered a heart attack or something. West walked up. President, did you do it? Qin Zhao shook his head. Not me. It's that guy over there. Just then, the security came up to ask about the situation. Qin Zhao was fine. He didn't plan to pursue the matter. However, he was suspicious about the security of American airports. To be able to bring a gun into the departure lounge, either the man was really powerful or the airport security was too incompetent. If he wasn't in a hurry, Qin Zhao really wanted to find a lawyer to mess with Hawaiian Airlines. Uncle, are you okay? Jamie's walked up and asked, but her tone sounded like she was asking for credit. I'm fine. My plane is about to arrive. Bye. How rude. You didn't even say thank you. Jamie's pouted. They don't know that we did it, Dorinko said. Qin Zhao and West boarded the plane. Not long after they sat down, they saw Jamie's and the others enter the first-class cabin. "Hey, Uncle, what a coincidence. You're in first class too." Chen Zhao put a facial mask on his face and closed his eyes to rest. Chen Zhao didn't want to talk to others, especially someone who called him uncle. "Uncle, this brand of facial mask can only replenish water. If you want anti-aging, you should change to another brand. I recommend you a brand." Chen Zhao finally couldn't help but yell, "I'm not old. I just want to replenish water." The passengers in the first-class cabin couldn't help but turn to look at Chen Zhao. Even the air stewardess looked at Chen Zhao. West glanced at Chen Zhao and then turned his head silently. This was probably Chen Zhao's first time in such a difficult situation since coming to America. "Miss, I want to rest. Can you not let others disturb me?" Chen Zhao could only call the air stewardess. "Jamie's, stop messing around," Kim said in a low voice. "We're on a plane, after all." "Uncle, do you want to give me your number? I can teach you some skincare techniques." Jamie's didn't have any self-awareness at all. She was completely immersed in her own world. "Oh, Uncle, are you emotionally unstable because you were threatened?" "It's okay, it's all in the past. But I'm so envious of you. You have the chance to be threatened. No one has ever dared to threaten me." "Miss, are there any seats in first class? I want to descend." "I'm sorry, sir, but they're all full." "Then can you let me experience the comfort of first class?" "It's my first time in first class. I hope to have the comfort that first class should have." "Uncle, it's also your first time in first class." "Miss, can you please stop harassing this gentleman?" The air stewardess could only turn her head to look at Jamie's. "I'm harassing him? When did I harass him?" "Uncle, tell her if I'm harassing you." Chapter 1281. Actually, Chen Zhao had only thought of it on the spur of the moment. He'd never thought about getting a plane. The association was doing well now, but there was no need to get a plane. Even the cheap Gulfstream G150 or G200 series would cost around $20 million. The association could afford it, but where would they put the plane? In an airline airport, it would cost $2 to $3 million a year. Plus maintenance and fuel, it would cost more than $5 million. If they built a small airport themselves, the one-time cost would be too high. It would cost at least tens of millions. This was because the association already had enough land and didn't need to buy land. Including the cost of land, it would cost at least 100 or 200 million. With the association's current scale, there was no need to get a small airport and a private plane. Moreover, the association didn't have many opportunities to go out. Even if there were occasional supernatural incidents that needed to be dealt with, it wasn't an urgent matter. In terms of cost-effectiveness, building a small airport and buying a private plane was too extravagant. The flight attendant's obstruction didn't make Jamie shut up. After the flight attendant left, she started harassing Chen Zhao again. In the end, Chen Zhao asked the flight attendant for an earmuff and finally closed his eyes to sleep. After arriving in Los Angeles, Chen Zhao hurried home. He hadn't seen Fei Lai and Zhirlan for more than 10 days. He missed them a lot. When Zhirlan saw Chen Zhao, she tilted her head and looked at him for 3 seconds. Then she suddenly pounced at him and hugged his leg. "Dad, Zhirlan missed you so much." "Dad, do you not want me and Mom anymore?" Chen Zhao smiled bitterly. He'd told Fei Lai before leaving, but he didn't tell Zhirlan. She actually misunderstood. Fei Lai smiled at Chen Zhao's return. "You're back?" "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. "Darling, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Fei Lai said. "I've been teaching little Anine a lesson these days. It won't be so reckless in the future." "Yes, it should be." Chen Zhao nodded. "Where is it now?" "I'll go teach it a lesson. It's playing with little 3 in the forest." "Okay, I'll go see them." Qin Zhao entered the forest. Before he even took 2 steps, he saw 2 black and white things. Panda. Wait a minute, that's not right. Big bear and little bear? Qin Zhao's eyes widened. Looking at the 2 little things, his face darkened. Fei Lai would never do something like that. Only little Zhirlan could do it. But to be honest, Zhirlan's dying skills were pretty good. They actually had some semblance of a human. Little Zhirlan probably dyed them like this because she had watched cartoons. However, they were brown bears after all. Qin Zhao didn't want Zhirlan to go overboard. He still had to wash the paint off their bodies. Little 9. Qin Zhao yelled. A whistling sound came from the forest, followed by the rustling of grass and trees. Little 9, Little 3, and the others had already arrived before him. Because Little 9, Little 3, Little 2, and Little 1 ate and lived together, their relationship was the best. Little 9's head had already grown to a very large size. It was nearly 25 meters long, and its 9 snake heads were raised high. Little 9, you did well that day. In the future, if anyone hurts mom and little sister, they have to do the same. Qin Zhao tossed a demonic crystal to Little 9. Roar, the 3 heads were all filled with envy and jealousy. Then, they looked at Qin Zhao with a wronged expression. It was as if they were saying, if I were here, I would definitely do better than Little 9. Little 3, Little 2, Little 1, you guys have to work hard too. Protect our family. Qin Zhao patted their heads. Little 9 was even more encouraged. Its intelligence wasn't low. It was even higher than mixed-blood demons like Princess and Walter. However, Little 9 wasn't a demon. It was a magical beast, a magical creature. But you can't hurt ordinary people, especially in front of mom and little sister. Understand? Little 9's 9 heads nodded at the same time. Wow, L.A. is so much bigger than Honolulu. Jamie's looked at the scenery along the way. The bus had been driving for more than an hour, but they still hadn't reached their destination. L.A. is 6 times bigger than Honolulu, Darling said. A tourist city was a tourist city, after all. It couldn't be compared to an international metropolis like Boss, where are we going? The venue of the North American Psychic Contest. We're going there to report. The bus arrived at the suburbs of L.A. The vegetation was dense here. There was a building in front that seemed to be newly built. Jimmy was a bit surprised too. It seemed that the North American Illuminati had spent a lot of money this time. The venue was actually so big. A white-haired man walked out. He wasn't old, but he had a head full of white hair. Jimmy recognized him. He was the general manager of the North American Illuminati, Russell Nanda. Jimmy, long time no see. Russell Nanda walked up and gave Jimmy a warm hug. The guards were only a supernatural organization in the Hawaiian Islands, but their strength and influence were quite good. So, Russell Nanda naturally welcomed Jimmy and his guards at the entrance without holding back his enthusiasm. Welcome to the new headquarters of the North American Illuminati, Mystery Mansion. Huh? You're moving the headquarters to L.A. Of course, Russell Nanda said. The original headquarters in Orlando was also a big city, but its influence wasn't as big as L.S. There are more opportunities and room for development here. Plus, L.A. is a place with many supernatural incidents, so it gives us more opportunities. I heard that the supernatural organization's headquarters is in L.2, right? Jimmy asked meaningfully. Yes, but do I care about them? Russell Nanda snickered. Jimmy could tell how disdainful Russell was of the supernatural organization. Of course, he felt the same way too. The supernatural organization had participated in 2 of the previous North American psychic contests. In the past 2 years, the supernatural organization had made a fool of itself. Jimmy also looked down on the supernatural organization. Are they still participating this time? I did send them an invitation, but do they have the face to participate? Ha! Russell Nanda laughed. Let's go. Let's talk inside. By the way, can you tell me anything about the competition? Jimmy asked. Chapter 1282. The guards are the last supernatural organization to arrive. I'll have someone arrange rooms for you. There's a meeting in the conference hall tonight about the first event. Okay. Russell Nanda indeed valued the guards and arranged the best rooms for them. The guards were envious and jealous of the headquarters of the North American Radiant Society. The environment here was much better than that of the guards. The guards had an office, which was used for meetings and meetings. But the headquarters of the North American Light Society had almost all the facilities. There were training grounds, entertainment areas, accommodation areas, offices, and so on. Boss, when can we have a headquarters like this? Jamies asked. We'll never be able to, Jimmy said. A headquarters like this costs at least $10 million. It's already not bad if we can get $1 million a year from our cooperation with the Hawaiian government. After deducting the operation budget and the salary, how much money can we have left? And we only have 8 guards. Do we really need such a big headquarters? Jamies and the others actually knew that they wouldn't need it, but they still had some fantasies. Unfortunately, Jimmy didn't play along with their fantasies and said it directly. In fact, there were many organizations like them who envied the headquarters of the North American Light Society. However, this headquarters did make them feel the legitimacy and authority of the North American Radiant Society. Sometimes, this was how the so-called authority came about. The North American Light Society was rich and powerful. Plus, it held all kinds of activities and competitions all year round, so most supernatural organizations recognized the authority of the North American Light Society. After dinner in the evening, Jimmy went to the conference room. When he entered, he found that the conference room was full of people. At a glance, there were at least 40 people. He knew some of them. Without exception, they were all in charge or decision-makers of various organizations. Jimmy, sit here. You're here too. It seems that it's going to be harder for the Tide to win this time. The person who greeted Jimmy was a black-haired woman who was dressed very sexily. She was Serena, the big sister of the supernatural organization Tide. The Tide was a Canadian organization. Because there were fewer supernatural organizations in Canada, the Tide was considered an authoritative organization in Canada. There were 15 people in total. They had more people than the guards, but their strength was similar. The last North American Psychic Contest had been a battle between the guards and the Tide. In the end, the guards Jamies and Dorinko narrowly defeated the members of the Tide. Gimli sat beside Serena. I should be the one with a headache when I see you. They were just flattering each other in business. Although they were competitors, they were not real enemies. In fact, those who could participate in this competition did not have any real enemies. Ahem. All right, everyone is here. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone. On behalf of the North American Illuminati, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone. Russell Nanda stood in the middle of the conference room. I don't need to explain the reason why everyone is gathered here. First, let me explain the rules of this competition. This North American Psychic Contest is a team battle. No matter how many people your organization or team has, you can't have more than 10 people. Of course, if you have less than 10 members, I can only say that it's a pity that you are in a disadvantageous situation from the beginning of the competition. If there are 20 people, can we split them into 2 teams? Someone stood up and asked. No, Russell Nanda said. It's not fair to those organizations with fewer people. The second rule is that in this competition, there will be an elimination system for each event. Any team that does not complete any event will be eliminated until the 5th round. The remaining teams will compete in the final competition. All right, Mr. Russell, let's get to the point. What's the first event? The first event is a test of your basic skills. I believe that it won't be difficult for any of your teams. If you can't even complete the first event, I will have to doubt your skills, Russell Nanda said. Russell Nanda said, the first event is to capture evil spirits. The time limit is 48 hours. You must capture 10 evil spirits within 48 hours, and you cannot leave the city of Los Angeles. Starting at 6:00 tomorrow night, any team that fails to complete the task will be directly eliminated. That's too troublesome. Why don't we start tonight? This competition has a certain level of danger. Tomorrow, I will have to sign a life and death agreement and insurance to ensure that if any accidents happen during the competition, the North American Illuminati won't be blamed. How troublesome. Those who can participate in the competition are definitely well prepared. No one will blame the North American Illuminati. Most people felt that the North American Illuminati was too troublesome. Since when did Russell become so fussy? That's why they are an official organization. We are not, Serena said. To be honest, if Tide had the financial support and manpower of the North American Illuminati, I would definitely do the same. Is it really necessary to sign an insurance agreement? If your people are injured or killed in the competition, how much compensation can your guards provide? If there's insurance, even if there's an injury or death, we can still get a considerable amount of compensation. Why not? Serena said. Okay. That does make sense. Kimberly had to admit that the North American Illuminati's approach was correct. Take the guards' funds for example. If it was just an ordinary injury, he could still afford the medical expenses of his team members. However, if there were serious injuries, the guards really could not afford to pay for it. But since even the insurance has to be signed, I'm afraid this competition is not that simple. Mr. Russell. A white-haired woman came to Russell Nanda's side. Do the participating organizations have any objections? No. Most of them agree with our arrangement. It's a pity that the supernatural organization isn't participating. Otherwise, we can use this competition to humiliate them. Mr. Russell, it's not like there's no chance at all. Oh. What idea do you have? I heard that when the supernatural organization purified Mapleville, they didn't kill the evil spirits. Instead, they convinced them to become their subordinates and took them away. So, the supernatural organization must have a lot of evil spirits. TSK. Russell Nanda said in disdain. These useless people can't even purify the evil spirits. In the end, they must use an embarrassing method to negotiate with the evil spirit organization. Chapter 1283. Serena, Jimmy said with a frown. We don't know anyone in Los Angeles. Where are we going to catch 10 evil spirits? They weren't worried about their combat ability. Usually, they dealt with evil spirits the most. However, they were dealing with supernatural incidents in Hawaii. They were completely unfamiliar with Los Angeles. They couldn't even recognize a single road. How were they supposed to find evil spirits? Evil spirits wouldn't wander around the streets. We have a girl in Tide. She can do divination. She can divine evil spirits? Jimmy asked in surprise. Of course, Serena said proudly. Jimmy's eyes lit up. Serena, why don't we work together? We'll eliminate the other organizations first. Then, we'll decide the winner. Why? You can't even protect yourselves right now, Serena said disapprovingly. Serena, how do you know that we won't be able to use our team's magic later? Are you sure your team can solve everything? Serena indeed wasn't confident. Just as Jimmy said, they had a good chance of winning if they worked together. All right, I promise, Serena said. Serena said, but if you go back on your word, we, the Tide, will fight to the death with your guards. Of course. Jimmy didn't plan to go back on his word. After all, they had already said it out loud. Moreover, this was a semi-public place. If he betrayed Tide and Serena in this competition, the dignity of the royal guards would be completely destroyed. A victory wasn't enough for him to go back on his word. Moreover, Tide wasn't weak. In fact, they were very strong. Serena had considered this too. If they worked together and supported each other until the finals, they could indeed minimize the risk. "Hey, Serena, Jimmy." Just then, Russell walked to the balcony. "What are you guys talking about?" "About the competition, of course," Serena said with a smile. "Jimmy and I plan to work together." After all, Russell was the organizer and wouldn't be participating in the competition. So, Serena calmly told them about her cooperation with Jimmy. Of course, she had another consideration. Letting more people know about their cooperation would ensure that Jimmy wouldn't go back on his word. "The two of you are working together? Looks like you've already secured the championship." Russell Nanda laughed. "Looks like I don't need to help anymore. You've always been impartial. What will you help us with?" "Help us win the championship?" Serena said disapprovingly. "I can't help you win, but I'm familiar with Los Angeles. I know where the evil spirits are. Do you need my help?" Serena and Kimley twitched their brows. They didn't believe that Russell Nanda would open the back door for them. This was almost like cheating. Based on their understanding of Russell Nanda, this guy would never do something like breaking the rules himself. "Of course, if you want to talk about it. There's a road leading to the forest on the outskirts of Zyriel. At the end of the road, there should be a lot of evil spirits. Don't tell anyone, or my words will damage the authority of the Illuminati of North America." Russell Nanda turned around and left. "Do you believe him?" Serena asked. "Maybe there really are a lot of evil spirits there, but I don't believe that he'd be so kind as to tell us." "Maybe he told every organization," Kimley speculated. "Also, if the evil spirits form a group, it'll be very troublesome. Maybe Russell Nanda wants to use us to get rid of the evil spirit group. I won't work for him." There is indeed such a possibility. Perhaps his goal is to eliminate a few more groups of contestants. Yeah, that old fox. Russell Nanda looked young, but he was actually very old. He was more than 60 years old. But that's good. Some idiots will fall for it. It'll solve our problem. "And Elite, there's a big deal that needs you. This is the original contract. Make a few hundred copies." "Oh, got it." And Elite took the original contract from the manager. He glanced at it casually. A few hundred copies at once. It should be a big company. Although he didn't get the order himself, he could still get a considerable amount of income. Of course, Elite was more concerned about his job in the supernatural organization. Most of his energy was spent on the organization and how to improve himself. If he just bought insurance, he wouldn't get $10,000 a month. But in the supernatural organization, he could earn tens of thousands of dollars by doing 1 or 2 missions every month. Ever since Chen Zhao became the president of the supernatural organization, it had completely changed. Of course, Elite didn't give up his job in the insurance industry. It was mainly to hide his real job. If his family knew that he'd lost his job in the insurance company, they might be shocked. Plus, it wasn't easy for him to get to the position of manager. His normal work was easy and he had a lot of free time. He could also use a client as an excuse to go out and report to the organization. Also, after helping some people deal with supernatural incidents, he could send out an insurance policy. He could do both his main job and side job at the same time. Most importantly, unless it was a group operation, Chen Zhao wouldn't force Elite to stay in the organization. During the demon army attack, Elite had performed well and gotten a good result. For this, he'd even received $100,000. Of course, the ones with the highest bonuses were Gaia and Heliais. Elite was envious of their bonuses, but he wasn't jealous. Chen Zhao had always been fair with rewards and punishments. He wasn't as strong as Gaia and Heliais. Plus, he'd been practicing his magic hard. Don't be fooled by the fact that he usually doesn't show off his abilities, but his strength has improved very quickly. He usually combed his hair back, wore a suit and tie, and carried an official bag. He looked no different from those insurance salesmen. But no one in the insurance company knew that he always had a pair of daggers in his bag. Dong Ye Tianxi had made them for him. He loved them so much that he couldn't bear to part with them. Ang Elite came to the address the manager gave him. He looked inside and felt that the layout was like his own organization's headquarters. Chapter 1284. Ang Elite entered the headquarters of the North American Light Association. The person leading the way was a white-haired woman. Apart from her weird hair, she was still very pretty. "Sir, this way please," the white-haired woman said. With the white-haired woman leading the way, Ang Elite came to a conference room. "Okay, miss, please call in the people who are going to sign the insurance." "Okay, please wait a moment." Soon, the white-haired woman brought in 20 people. Ang Elite realized that these people were dressed differently. They didn't look like employees of the same company at all. Instead, they looked more like members of the supernatural organization. They were also dressed differently. In the past, Ang Elite didn't think it was a problem. But now that he looked at them from an outsider's point of view, he suddenly felt awkward. Should he tell the president to have them wear the same uniform when carrying out missions? Sir, can we sign the insurance contract now?" Ang Elite came back to his senses. He had actually spaced out during work. But this was already normal. Now, Ang Elite focused most of his energy on the supernatural organization. "Okay, sorry. Let's start." 20 people took the insurance contract, glanced at it and signed their names. Then the white-haired woman brought in another 20 people. Ang Elite did the same work over and over again. Ang Elite vaguely sensed that these people weren't ordinary people. They were all spiritualists. Although he couldn't sense most of them, there were always one or two who weren't strong enough and didn't have good control of their magic power. Ang Elite could easily sense their magic power. No wonder. This was a supernatural organization. But there seemed to be quite a lot of people. It was just signing the insurance contract and not negotiating, so it didn't take much time. But there were too many people. There were at least 400 of them. There were really a lot of people in this supernatural organization. But judging from Angelite's senses, most of the people in this organization were similar to him in the past. They were spiritualists who were just slackers. Of course, Ang Elite didn't dare to say that he would definitely win against anyone in the organization, but he could definitely stand alone against outsiders. Angelite's mentality was good. He felt that everyone had gone through that stage. But the strength of an organization had nothing to do with the number of people. The supernatural organization only had 20 to 30 people, but most of them were quite strong. Even Aduz dared to run out and take orders. Right, Aduz was about to be discharged in 2 days. He usually played with Aduz, so he should pick him up. The white-haired woman noticed that Ang Elite was distracted again. His impression of Ang Elite immediately worsened. However, the insurance contract had already been signed. "Mr. Ang Elite, let me see you out." Oh, thank you." Ang Elite packed his things and was about to leave when he felt a bump on his shoulder. A man with a mohawk hairstyle purposely rubbed against Ang Elite. This man was the same as Morid. He wasn't a good person. Of course, after being taught a lesson by Chen Zhao, Morid had become much more well-behaved. After walking for 3 meters, the man's expression suddenly changed. He touched his pocket and realized that he had lost something. The Mohawk man turned to look at Ang Elite, who was holding on to his phone. "Sir, did you lose anything?" A look of surprise appeared on the white-haired woman's face. How did this insurance salesman take away that guy's phone? He couldn't even see it clearly. The Mohawk man's face was filled with anger. "Give it back." Ang Elite tossed the phone back into the Mohawk man's hand. So fast. The white-haired woman could vaguely see Angelite's movements. However, the Mohawk man wasn't happy. He felt like he'd been played. Go die. The Mohawk man raised his arm and swung his fist at Engelite. Engelite's arm suddenly turned into a blur. The next moment, a dagger appeared in his hand. At the same time, the dagger was pressed against the Mohawk man's neck. In the entire supernatural organization, Engelite was the only one who could barely keep up with Qin Zhao's speed. In the past, Engelite's biggest weakness was that he couldn't maintain his super speed for long. But now, his speed had increased by at least 8 times and his control of magic was even better. It wasn't a problem for him to last a battle. He even asked the members of the lightning team to teach him fighting techniques. You want to kill me? Holding the dagger, Engelite smiled at the Mohawk man. So fast, too fast. The white-haired woman subconsciously took 2 steps back. If they clashed and the distance was less than 5 meters, she definitely wouldn't be able to dodge his attack. If she was within 5 meters, she would definitely die. She didn't even see how Qin Zhao had taken out the dagger and pressed it against the Mohawk man's neck. This guy was also a spiritualist. Furthermore, he was a very powerful spiritualist. Say, sir, I'm joking with you. The Mohawk man was frightened. He could only bully normal people. He didn't expect Engelite to be a spiritualist too, and a powerful one at that. Most importantly, he could feel Engelite's murderous aura. Speaking of this aura, Engelite had learned it from Klaus. Apparently, Klaus had learned it from Qin Zhao too. When facing enemies or captives, one might not want to kill them, but one still had to maintain the murderous aura. This was to shock the enemy and make them submit and fear him. Engelite obviously didn't plan to kill, but he'd learned 80% of the aura. With a smile on his face, Engelite looked like a cold killer. Engelite put away the dagger. The white-haired woman still couldn't see Engelite's movements clearly. Engelite returned to the appearance of a commercial insurance salesman. The Mohawk man was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. Even when Engelite turned to leave, he didn't have the strength to stand up. He felt that he could really be killed. The white-haired woman really doubted which one was the real Engelite. Mr. Engelite, you should know where this is, right? No. This is the headquarters of the North American Light Association. Are you interested in joining us? We really hope to have a powerful wizard like you. Sorry, I still prefer my job as an insurance salesman. Engelite wouldn't reveal his true identity so easily. Even his family didn't know his true identity, let alone others. Chapter 1285. Join this North American Light Organization? Engelite didn't want to be a traitor. He also didn't want to become the useless person he used to be. Comparing the current supernatural organization to the past supernatural organization was like a sheep leading a flock of sheep. But now, it was like a lion leading a pack of wolves. Engelite didn't want to be a lion in a flock of sheep because he felt that if he stayed in such an environment for too long, he would become a sheep too. In his eyes, the North American Light Organization was a flock of sheep. He only hoped to follow in the lion's footsteps. Only by looking at the lion's back did he know how to walk his path. Russell walked to the white-haired woman. Zella, what are you looking at? That man is very powerful. Zella said. I tried to rope him in, but he refused. Oh. For you to call him powerful, how powerful must he be? Russell Nanda looked at Zella in surprise. When she first met Zella, Russell Nanda's evaluation was only not bad, nothing more. Of course, the current Russell Nanda was different from before. If you don't use your secret technique, you won't be able to defeat him. If I clash with him within 5 meters, I'll be killed instantly. As for you, you can't even guarantee your own safety within 20 meters. Is there a way to rope him in? It's probably difficult. He's very powerful, but he's willing to disguise himself as an insurance salesman. This means he's not willing to participate in the supernatural world. Then forget it. Russell felt it was a pity when he heard Zella's words. It was rare to meet such a powerful spiritualist. It was such a pity that he couldn't recruit him. But they weren't an evil organization. They wouldn't use evil methods to force him to join them. Oh, I've already leaked the information about the supernatural organization's evil spirit organization to the leaders of all the organizations, but I don't think many will really go. Why? Zella asked, confused. I don't have a good reputation, Russell said helplessly. But it's good to have a few. Crown and Dillas stood at the door to welcome Aduz back. The two of them were marginal characters and did not have much popularity even in the evil spirit group, but Aduz just happened to be of the same ilk. Now that Aduz was injured, the two of them wanted nothing more than to tear the people who hurt him to pieces. If they could win, even if Offit was locked up in the dungeon, the two little evil spirits wouldn't be able to defeat him. At this moment, Klaus's car drove into the headquarters, and Aduz alighted from the car. When Erdos was discharged from the hospital, it was Klaus who went to fetch him. Crone, Dillas, how are you? Aduz had been lying in the hospital for more than 10 days. He could have been discharged a few days earlier, but West kept saying that he would be under observation. That was why he was finally discharged after more than 10 days. Aduz excitedly hugged Crone and Dillas passionately. Sure enough, only by returning to this place could he feel the value of his existence. The hospital was too boring. Aduz even felt that the hospital wasn't a place he should be at. Whenever he went to the courtyard of the hospital, a group of old men and women would come over to complain to him about their pain. Aduz felt that he was different from them. He was not one of those damned old men and women. He was a true warrior. When the demon army invaded last time, he had killed a demon with his own hands. Last time when that group of people attacked, he was only slightly injured by their sneak attack because he was careless for a moment. That definitely wasn't his true strength. Hey, Aduz, are you back? Just then, Pamela floated over. Don't come near me. If you come near me, my cold legs will act up. Aduz immediately jumped back. Okay, I'm joking. Nice to see you again, Miss Pamela. Aduz breathed in the air. This place is still the most comfortable. Just then, an elite drove in. Aduz, why are you back? I didn't know you were discharged until I went to the hospital. Why didn't you tell me? It was Klaus who took me out of the hospital. Klaus, that bastard. I can leave the hospital on my own. I'm not an old man, I don't need you to take care of me. Aduz was never one to be old, especially here. Klaus shrugged. I was afraid that you'd be late. The president knew that you'd come today and left a lot of food. It's not available on the market. Oh, where's the president? Someone attacked Miss Phalai. He's angry now. What? Who dared to attack Miss Phalai? Crown, take out my weapon. I'm going to kill all those bastards. Alright, it's just a bunch of normal people. The president and Mr. West already went to deal with it. Aduz, go inside. The party is about to start, Pamela said. You can't miss the food. After all, even spirits liked the food that Chen Zhao had left behind. It was all magic food. It couldn't be bought on the market. One was even the immortal bird. Legend had it that eating the immortal bird's flesh would grant one immunity to fire. Of course, it wasn't that good in reality, but it did grant a certain level of heat resistance. It also had a certain amplification effect on fire magic. Magic food couldn't give normal people magic power, but there would occasionally be some special effects. It was like awakening, but not fully awakening. It could be considered a mutation. Of course, the chances were very low. Everyone mainly liked the taste and texture of the magic food. The sky darkened and everyone started the party. Apart from the people locked in the dungeon, everyone in the headquarters came to the party, including the evil spirit group. However, there were 30 female evil spirits. They were in the process of turning into banshees, so they couldn't join the party. Also, because Chen Zhao wasn't here, the evil spirits were rather relaxed. "Lady Pamela, let me toast you." Crown held his glass. It was the purple brew that Chen Zhao had provided. It was extremely expensive outside, but they could enjoy it freely here. Pamela responded to Crown's toast. After drinking, she took a deep breath. The wine was filled with magic. It was really irresistible. Suddenly, Pamela raised an eyebrow. Just then, Klaus also put down his glass. He heard the roar of a motorcycle outside. Chapter 1286. The door of the headquarters was smashed open by a car. Just like the last time Offit broke into the headquarters. There was no greeting at all. This was a naked invasion. It was an enemy. There were a few commercial cars behind, all filled with people. They jumped out of the cars as soon as they broke into the headquarters. Pamela appeared in front of everyone. "Look, there's an evil spirit. There really is an evil spirit. Looks like Mr. Russell South didn't lie to us. This mission can be completed easily." One of the psychics had a weapon that looked like a gun aimed at Pamela. Bang! The gun didn't shoot bullets or energy. Instead, it was a net. The net covered Pamela directly. Pamela could feel that the net was special and had rune power on it. Pamela's expression immediately changed. "Ah!" Pamela screamed at the person in front of her. Boom! The person's body exploded. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Everyone was stunned. Instantly, all the spells poured toward Pamela. Pamela was even angrier. Her warning didn't work. She looked at the 30 or 40 people before her. Cold air suddenly surrounded Pamela. Her body suddenly relaxed, and she let out another shrill scream. The cold air turned into thousands of icicles along with the screams, spreading in all directions. The spiritualist at the front was the first to be hit. The moment he touched the icicles, his soul was pierced and his body shattered like ice. Seeing that things were bad, the spiritualists behind hurriedly used defensive spells. But they still underestimated how terrifying Pamela was. The tens of thousands of icicles destroyed everything. They were as unreasonable as a metal storm. The defensive spells could block one icicle or two, but they couldn't block 100 or 1,000. In an instant, the bodies and souls of the 40 spiritualists were shattered. Only puddles of ice were left on the ground. Just then, the car at the back suddenly started. It turned and fled out of the headquarters. There were 2 other people in the car. They'd come to join in the fun. But they'd never dreamed that they'd encounter such a terrifying evil spirit here. No, it definitely wasn't an evil spirit. There couldn't be such a terrifying evil spirit. That definitely wasn't the power of an evil spirit. It was a demon. Dozens of spiritualists were slaughtered in an instant. They didn't think they were hunting. He was sending himself into the tiger's den. Pamela saw the escaping car and shrieked again. The MPV was dismembered. Pamela floated above the car. After checking, she saw a pool of blood and flesh on the driver's seat. After confirming that there was no aura of a living person, he slowly turned around and left. After Pamela left, someone crawled out of the car. This person looked in the direction of the supernatural organization's headquarters and ran into the darkness. He was frightened, truly frightened. Odenkirk fled back to the North American Light Society headquarters. Odenkirk, how come you're back so soon? Did the mission go smoothly? Russell saw Odenkirk return, but things seemed to be different from what he imagined. Odenkirk looked a little disheveled. Did something happen? Russell. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Odenkirk suddenly lost control and pounced at Russell Nanda. Russell Nanda quickly stepped back. What are you doing? Odenkirk, I won't go easy on you if you do this again. It's you. You killed my friends. You *Shoal, you're sending us to our deaths. Death? What happened? You don't know? You did it on purpose. You told us that there were many evil spirits there, but we only met one. But that evil spirit, she. What happened to her? There's so many of you and you can't even catch one evil spirit, right? She killed all of us. Not just my people, but everyone who went with us. They all died. They all died to that evil spirit. In just one move. She killed all of us with one move. What? Russell Nanda looked at Odenkirk in shock. How is that possible? You're not normal people. How can this happen? That's the truth. That wasn't an evil spirit at all. It was a monster. My friends, my brothers, everything I had, is gone. Odenkirk roared and cried. Russell Nanda was deep in thought. His expression also became very ugly. How could it be? How could an evil spirit have such terrifying power? Could this be the reason why the supernatural organization couldn't cleanse Mapleville after so many years? If that was the case, everything would make sense. If such a terrifying evil spirit existed in Mapleville, it would indeed be difficult to destroy. In the end, they had to negotiate with the evil spirit group in Mapleville. But this way, the supernatural organization got a bargain. They'd actually obtained such powerful combat power. What a pity. If only this evil spirit could join the North American Illuminati. The next day, Chen Zhao came to the headquarters of the supernatural organization. He realized that the entrance was a bit messy. What happened? President, you're here. Adu saw Chen Zhao and immediately went over to greet him. What's going on? Last night, we had a party at the headquarters, and then these people broke in and attacked Lady Pamela. Then Lady Pamela got angry and killed everyone. Who are they? Chen Zhao didn't care about their lives. I don't know. Lady Pamela was too fast. When we came out, the battle was already over. Oh, forget it, Chen Zhao said. If something like this happens again, leave at least one alive if the conditions allow. At least we'll know who sent them. Coming to his territory to behave atrociously, he deserved to be beaten to death. Chen Zhao didn't mind. What a pity, Adu said regretfully. Lady Pamela was too fast. I wanted to teach these bastards a lesson myself. He really wanted to prove that his injury last time was an accident. President. Carrying a backpack, Helith came out. Seeing Chen Zhao, she went over to greet him. Where are you going? I'm lacking some summoning materials. I heard that there's an abandoned cemetery in the southwest. I plan to go there. I probably won't be back tonight. I know that cemetery, Chen Zhao said. It's quite far. I'll take you there. Subconsciously, he still treated Helith like a child. Chapter 1287. Chen Zhao drove Halleys to the abandoned cemetery. Chen Zhao sensed that there were a few powerful spirits nearby. However, he was only slightly stronger and posed no threat to Blackie. Moreover, he could feel that Helith's perception of the dead was stronger than his. She must have felt it too. How long are you staying here? Chen Zhao asked. 1 day should be enough. We just need to find some skeletons. Then I'll pick you up tomorrow, or call me when you're done. Guild leader, I'm not a child. All right, I'm leaving. Helleys was speechless. Everything about her president was good, but he treated her too much like a child. It was probably because he was not strong enough that the president always felt that he needed to be taken care of. Helith's style of doing things was very planned. Whatever she did today, she would do it tomorrow. He would enter the training tower's 4th floor twice a week. Then, he spent the next 2 days meditating and studying black magic. In the extra time, he would carry out various combat missions to enrich himself. When Chen Zhao returned to the city, a bus suddenly passed by. Then Chen Zhao heard a scream. Looking back, he saw a head poking out of the bus window. It was the girl named Zhomais. "Hi, uncle." Chen Zhao immediately pretended not to see anything and left. Jamies immediately said to the bus driver, "Stop the bus, stop the bus." "Amy, where are you going?" "Let's go out and play," Jamie said. "We're on a mission right now." "We're competing," Kingsley said. "It's just capturing a few evil spirits. It doesn't matter if I'm here or not." Gimli looked at the other members of the Tide Guild, but Serena said, "It doesn't matter. We're just capturing a few evil spirits anyway. We don't need so many people. Can I go with you? It's my first time in Los Angeles." "I didn't even get a chance to go out and play," a female member of the Tide said. "I'll go too. I'll go too." Several members who were about the same age as Jamie's all wanted to go out and play. With Jamie's taking the lead, they naturally didn't want to fall behind. Kinley looked at Serena. Serena looked helpless as well. He had thought that Xiaomi was alone. In the end, after she took the lead, a group of people followed suit. "Forget it, all of you can go. You can play however you want. Billy, stay here. We need you for our operation." "Yes, big sister." Billy nodded. "Come back at night. Don't spend the night outside." Gimli was still a little worried about the children. Xiao Misai and the other young people all got off the car and went out to play in groups of 2s and 3s. Dorink had always been Jamie's follower. "Jamies, where are we going?" "Let's go find that uncle. He should be very familiar with Los Angeles. Let him take us there. We don't know him that well." "Who said we're not? We even saved him before. Have you forgotten? That doesn't count as saving him. The person who kidnapped him didn't intend to kill him," said Dorink. "I don't care. We saved him anyway. Let me see where he is now." Jamie's closed her eyes for a moment before opening them again. "Turn right at the intersection ahead. We have 2 legs. He's driving a car. Can't we hail a taxi?" After driving for more than 10 minutes, he suddenly felt a car following him. He glanced at the rearview mirror. It was a taxi. Chen Zhao parked by the roadside and saw 2 girls run out of the car. Chen Zhao immediately wanted to run back, but it was too late. "Hey, uncle, we meet again. We're really fated." "Who's fated with you? How did you know I was here? Would you believe me if I said we know magic?" Chen Zhao had already known that they were witches at the airport in Hawaii. Thinking about it carefully, it wasn't surprising that they could find him with magic. "You really don't believe me?" Jamies looked at Chen Zhao's smile. "But it's normal. Most people don't believe that magic exists in this world. Why are you looking for me? Take us out to play." "I'm not free." "What do you want to do?" "Work." "What do you do for a living?" "University professor." "Liar. There's no professor as young as you. You finally admit that I'm young. Let's go. I'll treat you to dinner. The food here is really good." Jamies wiped the grease off her lips in an unladylike manner. "This place must be really expensive, right?" "It's all right. The minimum spending at Marina Restaurant was $800. Those who could come here would usually spend more than $3,000. It was noon, so there weren't many people in the restaurant. But at night, it was hard to find a table here. "Uncle, you're rich, right?" From Jamies's point of view, Chen Zhao must be very rich since he took them to such an expensive restaurant and a private room in a first-class cabin. "Yes, I do have some money. Do you want to sponsor us? If you have any trouble in the future, we can help you solve it." "No need. I believe I can solve any problem myself. If I can't, you probably can't either." "That's not for sure. You don't even know our abilities." "Well then, go kill the one in the White House. See? If I can't do it, you can't do it either." Don't joke around. We're not terrorists or killers. Does that mean that apart from that, you can do everything else? Of course. We don't kill people. Okay, I need money. Go rob 100 million from the bank and give it to me. Pfft, if I have that ability, why would I need your sponsorship? See, I need money. You can't do it either. Asterisk Shoal, you're messing with us. No. Look at my serious eyes. Why don't I see your serious eyes at all? Okay, are you full? I have something else to do. I'm a man of my word, Jamie said. If you really have something you can't solve, you can find us. Chen Zhao looked back at Jamie's and Dorinko. He only smiled and left. At the same time, the bus stopped outside the abandoned cemetery. Kingsley, Serena, and Billy alighted and realized that there were 2 more buses parked in front of them. Just like their bus, they were both from the North American Illuminati. The drivers were also from the Illuminati. Serena frowned. Someone got here before us. Are we still going in? Kingsley asked. Billy, are there many evil spirits inside? Chapter 1288. How strong? If it's the 3 of us, we might be able to take care of one, Billy said. But if a few strong evil spirits gather together, we'll be in danger. The group that went in before us should be able to attract the evil spirits' attention. I don't think they have the ability to capture all the evil spirits individually. Are the evil spirits here really that scary? Jimmy had never encountered such a strong evil spirit. The evil spirits here must have devoured all the evil spirits in the graveyard, leaving only a few strong ones. They can't do anything to each other, which is why they're so scary, Billy said. As long as we're careful, it'll be fine, Serena said. All right. The 3 of them entered the graveyard. Because it had been abandoned for a long time, and no one had taken care of it, the tombstones were all over the place. After walking for a while, Billy suddenly stopped. What's wrong? An evil spirit disappeared, Billy said. Was it destroyed? Another one disappeared, another one disappeared. Is the group that went in first very strong? Jimmy asked in surprise. No way. I didn't see any particularly strong group this time. Serena glanced at Jimmy. Except for your guards. Just then, a terrified scream came from the graveyard. Then, the 3 of them saw more than 20 people running away in panic. Behind them, there were 4 more evil spirits. They're being chased by evil spirits. No, they're running in different directions. They're not being chased by evil spirits. They're running together, Serena said. Only then did Gimli realize that they were indeed running away, but so were the evil spirits. What's in there? So scary. There's an aura. A very strong magic power has appeared in front of us, Billy suddenly said in fear. Kingsley and Serena also sensed the powerful magic. They looked into the depths of the graveyard and saw a girl in black standing there. The 3 of them backed away in fear. The girl in black was emitting a terrifying aura. Let's go, Serena said. We can't stay here any longer. That girl is very scary. We'll be killed by her. Kingsley and Billy thought so too. This magic made it impossible for them to resist. It was better for them to escape as soon as possible. The 3 of them left the cemetery. Fortunately, the girl in black did not chase after them. Another group of people had also escaped. Some of them could no longer stand up and were lying on the ground, panting. Are you body from the new era? Serena looked at one of them. She recognized one of them. She had interacted with him before. Serena. Why are you here? Just like you guys. What's going on? We heard that there were evil spirits here, so we came to capture them. When we arrived, we discovered that the evil spirits were surrounding that black-clothed girl. We wanted to help, but that black-clothed girl chased us away. I wanted to teach her a lesson, but what was the result? That black-clothed girl accidentally killed 2 evil spirits. Slip up? What do you mean? She wanted to capture the evil spirits alive, but because of our harassment, she ended up killing 2 of them. Then, she took it out on us and even injured Na-en. What's with that black-clothed girl? Do you know her? Is she also one of the contestants? I don't know her. I've never heard of such a terrifying witch. I don't think she's one of the contestants, Kimley said. If she is, we don't have to compete anymore. Everyone fell silent. Indeed, just the black-clothed girl's aura alone was enough to make them stop. According to Body, the girl was actually facing a few powerful evil spirits by herself and still had the upper hand. Moreover, if the black-clothed girl wanted to eliminate those evil spirits, she should be able to do so easily. Let's go. Let's leave this place. If that black-clothed girl comes out, it'll be troublesome. Everyone hurriedly returned to the bus and left the abandoned cemetery. Looks like L.A. isn't as simple as we thought, Kimley said. The world is so big. It's not strange to have 1 or 2 powerful spiritualists occasionally, Serena said. Maybe she's the only one in all of L. Don't you know what happened last night? Know what? 4 organizations went to the place Russell Nanda provided, but only 1 escaped. That survivor has been sent to the hospital by Russell Nanda, and he doesn't allow us to contact him. What about the others? They're all dead. The person who asked for it was screaming along the way. Many people heard him. Russell Nanda probably wouldn't do that. Even if he wanted to eliminate the contestants, he wouldn't send them to their deaths. I suspect that even Russell Nanda didn't expect this. Things have gone out of control, Kimley said. Maybe Russell Nanda's initial goal was to eliminate a few groups of contestants, but something unexpected happened and caused casualties. Looks like we have to be wary of Russell Nanda. Be careful not to be led into a ditch by him. Indeed. I don't know what kind of enemy they encountered. So many people died. For example, that black-clothed girl has the ability to kill all of us. Yes. Luckily, we escaped quickly. Luckily, they had an evil spirit compass like Billy. Within the 48 hours, they finally caught 10 evil spirits. However, there were many contestants this time, and they all had their own abilities. Even the stupidest method was to find a local guide to find the so-called haunted houses or haunted places. So, most of them completed the mission. When they gathered in the conference hall for the second time, Kimley realized that half of the people were gone. Seems like many teams have been eliminated, Kimley thought. Russell Nanda came. He acted as if nothing had happened. First of all, congratulations on completing the first event. Now, there are 25 groups left, which is 250 people. Now, I'll explain the second event. Chapter 1289. I passed. Engelit ran into the front hall of the headquarters excitedly. There weren't many people there today. Engelit couldn't find anyone to share his joy with. Then he ran to the guard booth at the entrance and pulled Aduz aside. Aduz, I passed. What did you pass? First level of the Tower of Trials. I passed the first level. Engelit shouted excitedly. He became the 4th person to pass the first level after Gaia, Norma, and Heliais. Moreover, he was the first male to do so. Congratulations. Aduz also had a trial ring. He'd even tried a few times. Everyone knew the result. If he went in alone, he usually wouldn't last more than 10 seconds. But Aduz also knew how difficult it was to pass. He also knew how terrifying Chen Zhao, who'd passed the 7th level, was. The fact that Engelit was able to pass the first level showed how powerful he was. But Aduz didn't expect Engelit to be the first male to pass, except for Chen Zhao. That day, Engelit didn't go to work at the insurance company anymore. He would talk to whoever came to the headquarters. Joy had to be shared. If no one shared it, it would be meaningless. Of course, if someone was happy, someone would be sad. For example, Jalanash. She'd always thought that she'd be the fourth person to pass the first level. Most people in the association thought so too. The first three were all female, Gaia, Norma, and Heliais. This proved that witches were indeed more powerful than wizards. But she didn't expect that Elite, who'd always kept a low profile, would be the fourth person to pass the first level of the Tower of Trials. Everyone could see Angelite's strength. Angelite's magic was speed. He was also the only one who could compete with Qin Zhao in speed. But no one expected Elite to be the fourth. But this also caused the association members to start a crazy trip to the Tower of Trials again. In fact, many of the members were not far behind. Take Jalanash for example. She had originally thought that she would be the fourth, and it was not without reason. She could kill around 90 monsters now. She believed that she'd be able to pass the first level soon. However, Elite beat her to it, which made her really angry. There was also Giselle, Morid, and more. They were not far from Jalanash and were all very likely to make it to fourth place. Only West and Patya were unperturbed. The two of them were complete support. It was basically impossible for them to pass the first level alone. Gatkira and Domya Tianxi belonged to the last batch of members to join the association. For the time being, they were not ranked, so the two of them could only compete with each other. This time, I'll go in and kill a few more, and tomorrow, you'll go in and kill a few more. It's a competition. Next was Alice. Although she also knew offensive magic, she was generally classified as a support-type witch or a functional witch. Pan En and Eric were in the second group, about the same strength as Jalanash and the others. The first group consisted of Gaia, Norma, and Heliais. The strength of the three of them was indisputable. There was also more Raz. She had only entered the Tower of Trials once and never entered again. She was originally Offit's subordinate and was forced to join the association. Her strength was not outstanding and she was purely a support. She could not adapt to the battles in the Tower of Trials at all. The 5 members of the Lightning team were not spiritualists, but they had been baptized by strengthening potions. They also had extremely strong battle awareness, so they had always worked together to attack the Tower of Trials. Their current best result was 60 monsters on the first level. After all, it was very difficult for a team of 5 to enter. They had also formed their own battle style. If one of them could not do anything, the 5 of them together would definitely be able to do it alone. Of course, there was also an invisible member in the association, Osalisa. However, she was still a two-faced person and basically had no contact with the association. She would occasionally send messages to Qinzhao and West. Moore and Morid were also quite dissatisfied with Angelite's sudden increase in strength. They said that they would all be mediocre together, but you're secretly becoming strong. On this day, Jalanash and Morid reached the second level almost one after the other. Jalanash had wanted to be proud, but Morid also broke through, which greatly reduced her excitement. Forget about Elite, what was going on with Morid? Either way, Jalanash was very upset. When Qinzhao heard that 3 people had broken through the first level today, he was very happy. He praised the 3 of them and even gave them a raise in salary and benefits. In the current society, one could not rely on personal worship to form a team. Without proper treatment, why would people follow you? Actually, Qinzhao had seen their hard work. Jalanash's breakthrough was natural, but Qinzhao did not expect Elite and Morid's breakthroughs. It was not that he looked down on them, but they did not usually show it. Gaia, did you hear? Elite, Jalanash, and Morid all broke through the first level. Oh, that fast? Looks like I have to work hard too. I'll try to break through the second level this month, Gaia said. Although Gaia was busy filming the movie, she did not stop cultivating. Whenever she could enter the Tower of Trials, she would go in immediately no matter what. Come back quickly tonight. There's a party at the headquarters. Okay, I'll come back after picking up Evans. Come back directly after you're done, Chen Zhao said. I'll go pick up Evans. Okay. Gaia was not worried about Chen Zhao. Moreover, Chen Zhao had picked up Evans for her a few times. Gaia had finished filming her scenes long ago, but her work was not done yet. She was mainly in charge of directing the movements. Of course, she would also help the crew with some small problems. Woof! As soon as Gaia hung up the phone, she looked down and saw a fat Alaskan dog biting into her pants. Gaia picked up the puppy that had probably just been weaned and walked into the crew. Whose dog is it? Everyone in the crew asked, but no one answered Gaia's question. Since no one wants it, I'll bring it back. Evans should like it, Gaia thought. After finishing today's work, Gaia carried the puppy back to the headquarters. Chapter 1290. The dog is in the car in front? Yes, that's what the North American Illuminati's magic beacon shows. The North American Illuminati is really troublesome. If they give everyone a tracking magic beacon, what's the point of the competition? The North American Illuminati wants us to fight for the same goal, the driver said. The driver said, if each team can only find 4, then all the participating teams will be eliminated. However, this will definitely not happen. There will definitely be a few strong teams that will gather first, and the slightly weaker teams will have to compete. The North American Radiant Club wants to ensure that those with potential advance first, and then eliminate the weak teams. Boss, are we a weak team then? We're Wolf Deity, the big man in the passenger seat snorted. We're not those weaklings. Their organization was called Wolf Deity, and they were different from ordinary supernatural organizations. Wolf Deity was a mercenary, so they had rich combat experience. The second event of the North American Psychic Competition was to find and capture 5 mixed magical creatures. Wolf Deity's boss, Lone Wolf, thought that every member was an elite and did not need to search in groups, so the 10 members were divided into 5 groups of 2. Hey! Lone Wolf suddenly saw another car drive past. Fuck, competitors are here. Boss, they seem to have a lot of people. What should we do? Chase the car in front and stop it, Lone Wolf said. Here? Of course, hurry up. Grab the thing and leave, Lone Wolf urged. There's no one else on the road. Oh, okay. The driver could only speed up and rush to the car in front. He turned the steering wheel and stopped the car in front. But just then, the car that had been chasing the same target also stopped. It was not the group that Lone Wolf had found, but 4 or 5 groups that had all bumped into each other. Gaia saw that she had been stopped by an unfamiliar car and frowned. After she left the set, she had felt a car following her. She just could not figure out who it was. Revenge? Or some kind of robber? Gaia carried Jamie out of the car. Just then, a dozen people got out of the 4 or 5 cars. There were men and women, dressed in all sorts of strange ways. Gaia was a little confused. Were robbers nowadays so unconventional? Kinley and Serena cooperated as usual. Both sides had agreed that after one team found 5 hybrid magic creatures, they would help the other team search for them. There are so many competitors. How could it be such a coincidence that they are all gathered on the same target? Serena said in a low voice. I reckon there will be a huge battle soon, Jimmy said with a frown. This was only the second round, and they were already going to start fighting? Don't do anything first. We'll take over after they're done. Serena clearly wanted to reap the benefits. They're not idiots. Who wouldn't want to reap the benefits? Gimli said. There's really someone who's an idiot. Heh. The person who stopped the car, Lone Wolf, is an idiot who only knows how to use force. He will definitely rob it later, and after that, the others will definitely stop him. Serena said. Indeed, just as Serena had guessed, Lone Wolf swaggered toward the woman. Who are you people? Gaia shouted. None of your business. Give me the dog in your arms. Lone Wolf walked in front of Gaia and reached out to grab Jamie, who was in Gaia's arms. Gaia single-handedly grabbed Lone Wolf's wrist. Is this dog yours? Cut the crap. Lone Wolf raised his leg and kicked Gaia's stomach. Gaia took 2 steps back. Lone Wolf was a little surprised. He was an enhancer. Even though he hadn't used his full strength in that kick, it definitely wasn't something an ordinary person could withstand. However, this tall woman only took 2 steps back. Not bad. You can withstand my kick. Lone Wolf suddenly sped up and charged toward Gaia. Gaia was already enraged. She looked at the charging Lone Wolf. Bang! With a punch, half of Lone Wolf's face caved in, and he lay on the ground, motionless. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was the sound of something cutting through the air. Gaia twisted her shoulder, but she couldn't dodge the sneak attack. Her shoulder was cut by a crossbow bolt. Gaia's expression immediately darkened. These weren't ordinary people. The surrounding atmosphere had also become heavy. Gaia's body emitted a violent aura. This aura brought with it an oppressive feeling. Everyone was out of breath, and it also stimulated everyone's nerves, making them restless and agitated. So scary. This woman isn't ordinary. Kim's expression changed slightly. Serena's face twitched slightly. She was trying her best to resist this violent feeling. Kill! Everyone roared at the same time and charged toward Gaia. They were forced to do so by her aura. But in the next instant, a wave of heat erupted from Gaia's body. There was also an oppressive feeling that was 10 times more terrifying. Scram! Everyone was instantly sent flying. Rings of fire appeared around Gaia's feet. Everyone fell to the ground pathetically as they looked at the godlike Gaia in horror. Even Gaia was somewhat surprised. She had actually comprehended a deeper level of bloodline power, Dragon's Aura. In the past, Gaia could also release Dragon's Aura, but it was different now. In the past, her aura was restrained and not released. Now, however, her aura had been achieved. Gaia looked at the injured people on the ground and snorted coldly. She returned to the car and drove away. For the dozen people present, this was definitely an extremely humiliating experience. But they were filled with despair toward that tall and big woman. That godlike power wasn't something that humans could hope to achieve. Too scary. Kim was the least injured, and he was standing at the back. He helped Serena up. Serena, how are you? I'm fine. Serena suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. But this mouthful of blood had spat out the pent-up pressure in her heart. Her body was a lot more relaxed. Damn it, who is that woman? She's too scary. Is there anyone in this world that can be her match? Maybe the girl in black we met in the abandoned cemetery during the day can. There are 2 such terrifying spiritualists in the same city. I can't imagine it. Los Angeles is more dangerous than we thought. Kim and Serena weren't in the mood to look for mixed-blood magical creatures anymore. They dragged their tired bodies back to the headquarters of the North American Light Association. Russell Nanda hurried over. Kim, Serena, I heard that you met a powerful spiritualist outside? Yes, very powerful. You 2 can't defeat her even if you join forces? Russell Nanda had heard about this from others. He didn't expect that there would be such a powerful spiritualist in Los Angeles that he didn't know about. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.